Chapter 3589. In the past few thousand years the Tianren domain lord could still tolerate it. He only reminded the Heavenly Wolf King in private not to go overboard. Who knew that the Heavenly Wolf King was so arrogant that he did not take the domain lord seriously at all and continued to do things his own way. In the past 2,000 years, the Heavenly Wolf King's methods had become more and more overbearing and ferocious, causing the various empires in the Tianren domain to complain. The Tianren domain lord also became enemies with him many times and gradually became enemies. In the end, the Tianren domain lord could not take it anymore and took action 10 years ago. He gathered a large number of troops and used all the power of the Tianren domain. He also invited the help of 2 domain lords to join forces and annihilate the Heavenly Wolf King's forces. More than half of the elites under the Heavenly Wolf King were killed and the rest surrendered. Even his right-hand men had been killed by the domain lord of benevolence in order to cover his escape. Since then, the severely injured Heavenly Wolf King had disappeared without a trace. Everyone thought that he must have fled to a faraway region or even to other continents. Unexpectedly, he actually came to the Green Lotus region. Lu Ming was very clear about the Heavenly Wolf King's deeds and his enmity with the Tianren domain lord. Although he could not finish talking about the Heavenly Wolf King's life history even if he talked for 3 days and 3 nights. However, Lu Ming made it short. In just a moment, Ji Tianxing understood the Heavenly Wolf King's identity and situation. Peng Fei nodded repeatedly to express his agreement. Yes, Martial Uncle is right. The Heavenly Wolf King is a notorious butcher and demon. Not only do the people of the Tianren domain hate him, but even the people of the Green Lotus region fear him when they hear of his evil name. Lu Ming suddenly thought of a problem and frowned. Peng Fei, I didn't even know that the Heavenly Wolf King had appeared. How did you know? Peng Fei smiled and scratched his head. Of course it's master. Impossible. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Lu Ming flatly denied and said in a firm tone, if your master knew of this news he would definitely inform me immediately. After all, one of the 2 domain lords who helped the Tianren domain lord eliminate the Heavenly Wolf King was me. Peng Fei was embarrassed and smiled. Martial Uncle, haven't I left Mount Wuhua these 2 years and been wandering around outside? As you know, I like to wander around, gather information and do some business. Ji Tianxing immediately revealed a smile, nodded and said, yes, this kid wanted to sell me a piece of information in the Rainpool City, and cheated me of 20 million. Lu Ming frowned fiercely. He looked at Peng Fei with a sharp gaze and reprimanded, you're really daring. You dare to lie to anyone. Fortunately you met Brother Long this time. If it were any other divine king, you wouldn't even know when you'd lose your little life. Peng Fei was even more embarrassed and said with an embarrassed smile, Martial Uncle, I'm doing business properly. How can it be called cheating? Ji Tianxing smiled and waved his hand. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's talk about the Heavenly Wolf King. Lu Ming nodded slightly and said seriously, if the clues provided by Peng Fei are accurate, then we can basically confirm that the real culprit should be the Heavenly Wolf King. Other divine king powerhouses could not do this sort of thing, but the Heavenly Wolf King would not shrink from committing all sorts of atrocities. He could absolutely do it. The problem now is, where do we go to find the Heavenly Wolf King? Ji Tianxing said calmly, as long as we know who the real culprit is, it'll be easy to find him with a target. Although the Heavenly Wolf King has already left for several days. Nobody dares to guarantee whether he's still hiding in the imperial capital. Let's start searching from the imperial capital first. Lu Ming agreed. Peng Fei had no objections too. Hence, the first step of the plan was decided like this. On the other side, the unconscious state preceptor gradually woke up. Tian Myriad Emperor was long dumbfounded. Although he was very indignant and hated Ji Tianxing to the core. But just now, when he heard Ji Tianxing, Lu Ming and Peng Fei's conversation, he understood what was going on. Although he was somewhat in disbelief, he did not have the right to speak and could only carry out Lu Ming's orders. Very soon, Tian Myriad Emperor sent out thousands of imperial guards under Lu Ming's instructions to search for traces of the Heavenly Wolf King all over the imperial capital. Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming also split up, casting mystic arts and searching a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. However, the search operation lasted for 6 hours and ended in failure. Not only did the Imperial Guards find nothing, but Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming also did not detect the aura of the Heavenly Wolf King. Both of them returned to the Cloud Palace and met to discuss the next step of the plan. At present, it seems that the Heavenly Wolf King has already left the imperial capital and fled elsewhere. Then where are we going to find him next? That guy is now a wandering ghost. His whereabouts are mysterious and unpredictable. These few days are enough for him to leave the Green Lotus region and flee to other regions. If that's the case, then it's like looking for a needle in a haystack for us to find him. Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming had a discussion and both of them looked gloomy. Just as they had found the key clue and confirmed the culprit, they did not expect the clue to be cut off again. Just as both of them were at their wits' end, Peng Fei suddenly said, "Martial Uncle, Senior Longtian, do you think the Heavenly Wolf King might have gone to the benevolent region?" Upon hearing this, Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming were stunned for a moment before they shook their heads. 10 years ago he was seriously injured and finally escaped from the benevolent region. How could he possibly go back? Unless he's crazy. The benevolent region lord has a deep grudge with him. He will definitely go back to take revenge, but not now. In just 10 years, even if he had a fortuitous encounter, it's impossible for his realm to skyrocket. Both of their words made sense, but Peng Fei still insisted on his opinion and analyzed, "Although my idea is indeed a little ridiculous and unrealistic, I feel that given the Heavenly Wolf King's character he might really do such a thing. The most important reason is that there's a divine dragon mystic realm in the benevolent region. If the Heavenly Wolf King wants to take revenge, he has to quickly increase his strength or find a fortuitous encounter. Isn't that divine dragon mystic realm an opportunity for him?" Lu Ming thought about it seriously and nodded. That makes sense. That Heavenly Wolf King has never been someone who follows the rules. He doesn't play by the rules either. Even if it's risky for him to return to the benevolent region, as long as the temptation is big enough, he might still take the risk. Ji Tianxing also nodded and said, "Judging from the Heavenly Wolf King's style of doing things, he's not only cruel and ruthless, but also very sinister and cunning. Before he has enough strength to take revenge, he will definitely not expose his identity, much less let the benevolent region lord know. Even if he returns to the benevolent region, he will try to conceal and disguise himself. We still have to pay attention to distinguish." Lu Ming thought for a moment and made a decision. "Alright, then let's go to the benevolent region and make a trip to the divine dragon mystic realm." Peng Fei of course raised both hands in agreement. He said with anticipation, "Yes. In this way, even if we don't find the Heavenly Wolf King, we won't return empty-handed and make a wasted trip." Chapter 3590. The second step of the plan was decided just like that. Xianxia and the state preceptor watched from the side, not even qualified to interrupt. Seeing that things were developing in a direction they could not understand, both of them had strange expressions, wanting to say something but hesitating. But Lu Ming did not give them a chance to speak. After giving a few instructions, he left with Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei. "Xianxia, I'll head to the Tianren region now to capture the real culprit personally. You stay in the capital and wait for news. As for the state preceptor, although he is not the real culprit, he is an accomplice. You have to watch him closely." With that, Lu Ming's divine ship carried Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei out of the capital at lightning speed, disappearing into the horizon very quickly. Only the Emperor of Xianxia and the state preceptor were left. Both of them looked at each other speechlessly. After a long silence, the Emperor of Xianxia said in a complicated tone, "State preceptor, tell me the truth. Did you kill Xiangyu?" "This." The state preceptor's body stiffened, his expression becoming very awkward. He hurriedly denied it. "Your Majesty, how can you believe them?" But before he could finish, the Emperor of Xianxia shouted angrily, "Shut up. The truth has already surfaced. Are you still going to put on an act with me? If you tell me the truth, I can still be lenient. But if you continue to evade, I can only—" There was no need to say the latter part. Everyone was well aware of it. The state preceptor's body trembled and he closed his eyes in pain. He said in a mournful tone, "Your Majesty, what they said is all true. The one who killed the little princess was indeed me. But I didn't know about this matter, and it was definitely not my intention. Including the memories of those few days, I have a blank slate." The Emperor of Xianxia originally believed Ji Tianxing's judgment. After getting the state preceptor's confirmation, he no longer had any doubts. His heart was heavy and he said in a low voice with a mournful expression, Celestial Wolf King, you're a high and mighty middle-level god king, an existence comparable to a region master. Why would you do such a deranged thing? Why would you kill a divine lord realm girl? What kind of sin did my Tianxiang kingdom commit to attract such a murderous god? The imperial preceptor was startled for a moment before he hurriedly replied, Your Majesty, this matter is all Long Tian's fault. Although the little princess was not killed by him, she died because of him. It was definitely his appearance that had attracted the heavenly wolf king. After all, he was the godly monarch of the dragon race. If the celestial wolf king possessed him or refined him, he would soar to the heavens. The king-grade god artifact that he gave to the little princess was the main reason why the heavenly wolf king tried to kill him. Tianxiang's emperor furrowed his brows and said through gritted teeth, That makes sense. Originally we thought that we had wronged him, but now it seems that we were right to hate him. He was a jinx. He's the one who killed Xianxia. That's not right. Halfway through his words, Emperor Tian Myriad suddenly realized a problem. Imperial Preceptor, when the heavenly wolf demon king came to the capital to possess you, Long Tian hadn't appeared yet. The state preceptor's face stiffened and he was dumbfounded once again. Emperor Tian Myriad's face darkened again. After a long silence he said in a low voice, State Preceptor, you'll stay in the celestial pagoda from now on. Without my permission, you're not allowed to take half a step out. The state preceptor understood what this meant, but he was powerless to refute. He could only acknowledge the order and leave with a gloomy expression. The divine cruiser sped through the sea of clouds, heading straight for the benevolent region. Inside the divine cruiser, Ji Tianxing, Lu Ming and Ping Fei each had a secret room to recuperate. However, Lu Ming had been focused on steering the divine cruiser. Peng Fei, on the other hand, pestered Ji Tianxing, constantly asking questions and trying to worm his way into being friends. Senior Long Tian, how did you get to know my martial uncle? Ji Tianxing sat on the old-fashioned wooden armchair and closed his eyes to rest. His tone was calm as he replied, 8,000 years ago at a godly monarch exchange in the Xingyuan continent, I heard from my martial uncle that you were once a peerless genius whose name spread all over the world and crushed countless geniuses. Not only the Xingyuan continent, but even the 5 continents of the dragon realm are praising your deeds? It's not that exaggerated. It's just hearsay. Sai, don't be so humble. Can you tell me about your deeds back then? For example, your most glorious battle record, your most dangerous experience. You're very interested in the godly monarch's affairs. Yes, I guess so. But aren't your martial uncle and your master godly monarchs? Sai. What's so interesting about their trivial matters? Their lives are ordinary and uneventful. The walls have ears. Your martial uncle is steering the divine cruiser. I didn't say anything just now. Martial uncle won't take issue with me. Forget it, Senior Long Tian, let's change the topic. Do you think it's possible for us to obtain the Dragon Ball in this trip to the Divine Dragon Mystic Realm? Or the legacy of the Divine Dragon? Then will the Divine Dragon in the Mystic Realm be a red dragon, a golden dragon, a black dragon, or an azure dragon? Peng Fei's tone was a little excited. Obviously he was very agitated. Ji Tianxing opened his eyes and looked at him expressionlessly. He said indifferently, None of us have been to that mystic realm. Who can predict the future? Also, don't be too optimistic. There are at least 8,000 if not 10,000 mystic realms like this in the dragon realm. Most of them are just rumors. In reality, there isn't even a single dragon scale. Peng Fei immediately became listless. But he was only depressed for a while. He became lively again and activated his chatterbox mode. Senior Long Tian, may I ask what kind of dragon are you? I heard that the red dragon's personality is explosive, the golden dragon is noble, the black dragon is gloomy and overbearing, and the azure dragon is kind and amiable. Based on your personality, you should be a golden dragon, right? Ji Tianxing chose to remain silent and ignored him. Peng Fei was not embarrassed at all. He asked shamelessly, Senior Long Tian, when the time is right, can you reveal your true form and let me see the grace of a divine dragon? I haven't seen a divine dragon with my own eyes in all my life. Seeing that Ji Tianxing was still silent, he added, You see, I revealed my true form as a great rock before and was your mount. As long as you reveal your true form a little and let me broaden my horizons, I am willing to be your mount for a month. Seeing that Peng Fei was chattering and not giving up, Ji Tianxing was completely helpless. He opened his eyes again and said earnestly, Peng Fei, you are a pure-blooded golden-winged great rock. Among the 7 ancestors of the demon race, your status is second only to the Kuan race. Can you be calm and steady? Don't embarrass the rock race, okay? Peng Fei's spirit was instantly dispirited. He was embarrassed and helpless. He laughed bitterly at himself and said, "Hee hee. Not only do they say so, even you think so too? Forget it, I am the most useless and embarrassing golden rock anyway." After he finished speaking, he bowed towards Ji Tianxing and said calmly, "Senior Longtian, I have offended you just now. Please rest, I will not disturb you any longer. I will take my leave now." Looking at his lonely back as he turned and left, Ji Tianxing frowned slightly and revealed a thoughtful expression. Chapter 3591. Peng Fei, who was originally very talkative, became silent after being dealt a blow by Ji Tianxing. At least he looked more normal now, even a little dignified and serious. Ji Tianxing was happy to have some peace and quiet. He was quite satisfied with this result. 2 days later, the divine worship finally arrived at the Mirage Sea Forest of the Tianren region. Lu Ming was more well-informed than Peng Fei. Peng Fei only knew the approximate location of the divine dragon mystic realm, but Lu Ming had already found out that the mystic realm was deep in the Mirage Sea Forest. This place was very desolate. It was a primitive forest with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. There were high mountains and dangerous peaks everywhere. In the vast forest there were countless birds and beasts, including some spirit beasts. In the past, this was a paradise for beasts. However, in recent days most of the beasts in the forest were so scared that they ran around and hid. This was because elite experts from all over rushed into the Mirage Sea Forest to search for the whereabouts of the divine dragon mystic realm. The Divine Lord experts moved in groups of more than 10 at the same time or in groups of 2 or 3 at the same time. Even if a group of beasts encountered them, they could not wait to avoid them. They were terrified and uneasy, afraid that they would be killed and their demon cores taken away. As for the various flying ships and divine warships that flew over the forest from time to time, they were extremely terrifying in the eyes of the beasts. They had to run as far away as possible. A few hours later, the divine warship arrived deep in the Mirage Sea Forest and stopped in the air above a lush forest. At first glance, this forest looked very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that this area with a radius of 10,000 miles was exceptionally flourishing and the divine power of heaven and earth was abnormally rich. Most of the surrounding forests were ancient trees that were 100 feet or hundreds of feet tall. The towering trees in this area were basically more than 1,000 feet tall. In the dense jungle there were also many flowers and fruit trees, which were full of colorful flowers and fruits. Logically speaking, those divine flowers and fruits were great nourishment. Before they were fully ripe, they would have been snatched away by the beasts. However, in reality this area was very quiet. There were no beasts at all. Even snakes, ants, mosquitoes and insects did not dare to come close. Ordinary people would be puzzled. However, powerful experts like Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming could find out the reason. This was because this area was filled with a trace of dragon aura, the aura of a divine dragon. The dragon was the leader of all demons, the most powerful and noble existence. It was a natural deterrent to all demon beasts. No matter how many heaven and earth treasures there were, as long as there was the aura of a dragon, no demonic beasts would dare to approach. Swish, swish. Lu Ming put away the divine warship. Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei appeared in the sky above the forest. The 3 of them looked down at the forest and observed with keen eyes. Lu Ming pointed to a certain place and said, "The big trees there are all over the place. There are also a few deep pits on the ground as well as collapsed and broken trees. Obviously there was a fight there." Peng Fei was full of excitement. He couldn't hold back his anticipation and said, "This is the divine dragon's secret realm? There doesn't seem to be anything special about it. Is the secret realm hidden deep underground?" Ji Tianxing nodded and waved his hand, shooting out a bright golden light into the vast forest. In the blink of an eye, the forest and the earth split apart, revealing a wide ravine. "Let's go down and take a look." He took the lead and stepped into the ravine, flying toward the depths of the ground. Lu Ming and Peng Fei were stunned for a moment and quickly followed. Initially, Lu Ming wanted to remind Ji Tianxing that there were too many treasure hunters gathered here and they had to be careful. But when the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them back down. After all, given his and Ji Tianxing's strength, They could travel unimpeded in the Star Source continent. What was there to be afraid of? Not long later, the three of them passed through thousands of miles of soil and stone and entered the depths of the ground. At this depth, there was basically no soil underground. It was all extremely hard rocks and mineral strata. In the rock strata and mineral strata, holes and cracks could be seen everywhere, even forming huge canyons. The scene here allowed Ping Fei and Lu Ming to see another kind of underground world. The three of them entered a spacious cave with a radius of 10 miles. Ji Tianxing stopped in his tracks and looked at the corner of the cave. Lu Ming and Ping Fei also stopped and looked in the direction of his gaze. They saw that in the dark cave the ground and rock walls were emitting red light, shining like thousands of stars. Upon closer look they realized that it was the ore mixed in the rock strata. The fire attribute divine level or was of a higher grade and contained abundant divine power. At the same time, Ji Tianxing could clearly sense that these rock strata and ores had been influenced by dragon power for a long time and contained a faint dragon aura. In the corner of the cave, 4 godlord demons were carefully excavating the rock strata and mining the red ores. When Ji Tianxing, Lu Ming and Ping Fei looked at them, they also noticed that the three of them had barged in. They immediately pulled out their swords and sabers vigilantly, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming did not think much of it, their expressions calm. However, Peng Fei raised his eyebrows, a look of anticipation in his eyes. He muttered, "Uncle Master Senior Longtian, the ores here are of a higher grade and have abundant divine power. If they are mined and refined, they will definitely be valuable gems." What he meant was that he was already tempted. As for the 4 godlords mining the ores, he did not take them seriously at all. Anyway, the ores here were all treasures of heaven and earth and did not have an owner. Even if the godlords arrived first, as long as they were powerful enough, they could still take over the ores. After all, Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming could kill the 4 godlords instantly with a casual move. The heavenly world was a world where strength reigned supreme. The dragon realm was even more so, where the law of the jungle was followed and worshipped to the extreme. In the city and country there were still moral and legal constraints. Once in such a desolate wilderness, mystic realm treasure land, it would depend on whose fist was bigger. However, Lu Ming's reaction disappointed Ping Fei. He said in a calm tone, "We have another mission on hand. We are not here to explore and search for treasures." A simple sentence extinguished Ping Fei's thoughts of killing the demons and seizing the treasure. "Oh." He could only nod to show that he understood, a look of disappointment flashing in his eyes. Ji Tianxing did not say much. He led the way through the dark cave and continued to fly deeper into the ground. His divine senses spread out, enveloping the rock strata in all directions as he probed the surrounding situation. Within a radius of 40,000 miles, he knew clearly where the godlords were, where the divine stone mines were, and where the dragon's aura was stronger. He could sense that the deeper they went, the stronger the divine dragon's aura was. This proved that this mystic realm was indeed related to the divine dragon, and it was even deeper underground. Soon Ji Tianxing and the other 2 left the cave, passing through the cracks and gullies in the rock strata and disappearing into the depths of the darkness. The 4 godlords of the demon clan secretly heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the 3 of them leaving. They hurriedly put away their weapons and increased their mining speed, not daring to stop at all. If he could obtain the legacy of a divine dragon of the divine king realm or related treasures, it would be greatly beneficial. After saying that, the Fox Moon Divine King asked Lu Ming again, "Protectorate Lord Lu, you and Brother Long are not also here for the legacy of the divine dragon in the mystic realm, right?" Lu Ming hurriedly waved his hands and explained, "Fox Moon Divine King, you must be joking. Whether there is the legacy of the divine dragon in the mystic realm is something unknown. We don't have the leisure to do so. To be honest, we came to the Mirage Sea Forest this time to hunt down the Heavenly Wolf King." "What?" Suddenly hearing the 3 words Heavenly Wolf King, the Fox Moon Divine King's expression changed drastically. His pupils constricted and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He was full of shock and revealed an expression of disbelief. He lowered his voice and asked, "Protectorate Lord Lu, this is not a joke. Are you sure the Heavenly Wolf King has appeared? Furthermore, why would the Heavenly Wolf King dare to return to the benevolent region and even dare to come to the Mirage Sea Forest?" Lu Ming's expression was solemn as he said in a solemn tone, "Fox Moon Divine King, this seat is not joking with you. This is a long story, please allow this seat to slowly explain. Following that, he briefly explained the cause and process of the matter to the Fox Moon Divine King. After the Fox Moon Divine King finished listening, his expression immediately turned grave and he frowned. I didn't expect that the Heavenly Wolf King recovered from his injuries so quickly. He really doesn't change his nature. This time he appeared and started to harm the common people again. Protectorate Lord Lu, the Heavenly Wolf King is our common enemy. Since you guys are here to capture him, then count this king in too. Lu Ming naturally agreed and hurriedly nodded and said, "That's great. Let's act separately and exchange information. Not only can we look after each other, it's also easy to find him." The Fox Moon Divine King expressed his agreement but sighed somewhat regretfully. It's a pity that His Excellency the Protectorate Lord is in close seclusion to recuperate. Otherwise this king will definitely report this matter. His greatest regret is that he let the Heavenly Wolf King escape back then and was not able to kill him. Chapter 3593. It was impossible for the Benevolence Domain Lord to come. However, the addition of the Fox Moon Divine King was also good news for Lu Ming. After discussing the plan, the two of them began to split up. The Fox Moon Divine King and two guards stepped into the canyon where divine power surged. While searching for treasures, they were also searching for traces of the Heavenly Wolf King. Lu Ming, Ji Tianxing and Ping Fei continued to search ahead, using their divine senses to explore the various caves and canyons. During this period, the three of them also discovered a few caves that contained a large number of divine stones. In fact, there was even a vein that was dozens of miles long hidden in one of the deep canyons. The value of these cultivation resources was not low. They added up to a large sum of wealth. However, Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming did not care. They only focused on releasing their divine senses to search for traces of the Heavenly Wolf King. However, after Ping Fei saw these divine stones and mineral veins, he could no longer move. He was very tempted. After apologizing to Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming, he began to collect those divine stones and try to excavate the mineral vein in the canyon. Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming both expressed their opposition and tried to persuade Ping Fei. However, Ping Fei was insistent on excavating the divine stones and mineral veins. The two of them could not persuade him otherwise. Helpless, the two of them could only let Ping Fei collect the divine stones and mineral veins. The two of them continued to release their divine senses and use their divine powers and secret skills to search for the whereabouts of the Heavenly Wolf King. Ping Fei was very busy. In his eyes, there were only the priceless divine stones and mineral veins. Even as Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming walked further and further away, Ping Fei did not notice. 15 minutes later, Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming separately searched a radius of 50,000 miles, but they did not find anything. Not to mention the Heavenly Wolf King, they did not even meet a divine king. Those divine lord explorers did find a dozen of them, but the two of them could not be bothered. The two of them were helpless. They could only return to the agreed cave to discuss countermeasures. At this moment, the two of them sensed at the same time that there was a strong divine power fluctuation 20,000 miles in front of them. Immediately after, accompanied by waves of divine power fluctuations, there was a loud, dull sound. Clearly, in that region 20,000 miles away, not only did divine king powerhouses appear, a great battle even occurred. Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming glanced at each other. They quickly stopped their discussion and rushed toward that area. Swish! Both of them were as fast as light, passing through layers of caves, canyons, and cliffs. In a short span of 20 breaths, the two of them had traveled 20,000 miles underground and arrived at the scene of the incident. This was a huge abyss. On the left was a precipitous cliff that stretched for more than 200 miles. On the right was a dark and gloomy abyss, which was protected by a huge 5-colored light barrier. It was bottomless. The 5-colored light barrier was uniform and thick, and its defensive power was very strong. It shone with dazzling 5-colored divine light, dispelling the nearby darkness. Even so, the 5-colored light failed to illuminate the abyss. Ji Tianxing's and Lu Ming's divine senses were blocked by the colorful light shield and they were unable to investigate the situation in the abyss. As for the source of the ripples of divine power and the loud noise, it was on the cliff to the left of the abyss. There were two groups of powerhouses, a total of 5 people, and they were fighting. On one side there were 3 people. They were Fox Moon Divine King and 2 armored guards. On the other side, there were two demon race divine kings who were well-dressed and had a dignified aura. The stronger divine king wore a fiery red robe and had antennae on his head. It was hard to tell what race he was from. The other divine king was a burly man from the divine tiger race with a dignified face. Although Fox Moon Divine King's side had the advantage of numbers, they were obviously not their match. However, they were clearly not a match for the two demon race god kings. They were beaten back repeatedly, riddled with wounds. The ordinary-looking red-robed divine king was entangled with Fox Moon Divine King and completely suppressed him. It was obvious that he was stronger. No matter how Fox Moon Divine King unleashed his full strength and used all kinds of divine abilities, he could not defeat the red-robed divine king. Instead, he was in danger and could be severely injured at any time. As for the burly and dignified tiger race divine king, he was attacking the two guards of Fox Moon Divine King fiercely. How could two high-level Divine Lord Realm guards possibly withstand the attacks of middle-level divine kings? In a short moment, the two guards had their armors torn apart and their divine weapons defeated. Their bodies also became riddled with wounds, dripping with blood. Lu Ming was rather surprised and exclaimed softly, "Wasn't Fox Moon Divine King searching for the Celestial Wolf King? Why did he fight with those two divine kings? Among those two divine kings, there's no Celestial Wolf King either. And here, there's actually a defensive grand array?" Ji Tianxing's tone was calm as he said, "This light screen is a grand array that formed naturally after 10,000 years. The dragon aura here is very strong, rich to the extreme. If there are no accidents, this abyss under our feet should be the core of the mystic realm." Lu Ming pondered for a while and immediately came to a realization. He said, "It must be Fox Moon Divine King who found this place," thinking that he could find the treasure in the mystic realm right away. In the end, those two divine kings also found this place. Both parties fought over the treasure in the abyss, that's why they fought. Fox Moon Divine King did not inform us. Firstly, this matter has nothing to do with the Celestial Wolf King. Secondly, he wants to hog the treasure alone and is not willing to let us get a share? Regarding Lu Ming's guess, Ji Tianxing did not answer. His attention was on the two demon race godly monarchs. He vaguely sensed that there seemed to be something amiss with that red-robed divine king. Hence, he secretly cast the divine pupil mystic art and carefully observed that red-robed divine king. At this time, the situation in the field changed again. Just as Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming were observing the battle for a few breaths, Fox Moon Divine King's two guards were torn to pieces by the tiger race divine king, their divine bodies collapsing on the spot. The two guards' divine personas escaped in a panic from the sky full of blood and fragments, flying into the distance. But that tiger race divine king was long prepared. He brazenly brandished his palm and hacked out two streaks of golden light-sharp blades, chopping towards the two guards' divine personas. It looked like the two guards' divine personas could not escape in time and were about to be hacked into pieces immediately. Right at this critical juncture, Lu Ming finally made his move. Swoosh, swoosh. He brandished both his fists and struck out two huge dark golden fist gleams, slamming hard against the golden light-sharp blades. There was a crisp cracking sound and the two streaks of golden light-sharp blades were smashed into pieces at the same time. The two guards' divine personas were finally out of danger. They did not dare to stay any longer and hurriedly fled to the edge of the abyss, burrowing into the cracks in the rock walls and escaping without a trace. At this time, the two demon race divine kings discovered Lu Ming's arrival and instantly looked as though they were facing a formidable enemy. Both of them revealed intense vigilance, especially that red-robed divine king. After seeing Lu Ming's appearance clearly, his pupils constricted and intense hatred flashed in his eyes. Lu Ming was conversing with the Fox Moon Divine King, inquiring about the reason for the battle between both parties. He did not notice the subtle expression of the red-robed divine king. But Ji Tianxing had been observing the red-robed divine king and of course caught this subtle change. Coupled with the results of his observation, he immediately made a judgment and shouted coldly, "Lu Ming, that guy is in disguise. He should be the Celestial Wolf King." Chapter 3594. What? Hearing Ji Tianxing's cold shout, Lu Ming was not the only one stunned. Even the Fox Moon Divine King was stunned on the spot, her face full of astonishment. Both of them did not expect Ji Tianxing to make such a judgment. At the same time, the red-robed divine king's expression changed drastically. He glared at Ji Tianxing with a heart full of hatred and turned to fly away without hesitation, wanting to escape the abyss. After all, his disguise was exposed and his identity was exposed. Moreover, he only had the Tiger Divine King as his helper. The Fox Moon Divine King Lu Ming and Ji Tianxing. There were 3 Divine King powerhouses. The Red-Robed Divine King was very cautious and vigilant. Once he saw that the situation was not good, he fled decisively. However, his plan was destined to fail. Swoosh! With a flash of divine light, Ji Tianxing teleported 100 miles and blocked the Red-Robed Divine King's path. Lu Ming did not care about the Tiger Divine King and hurried over, blocking the Red-Robed Divine King's back. As such, the Red-Robed Divine King was surrounded from the front and back, unable to escape at all. His expression was as cold as ice, his eyes as sharp as a sword as he glared at Ji Tianxing, his body exuding a biting cold murderous intent. However, he remained silent in case he revealed any flaws. Lu Ming was still in disbelief as he asked Ji Tianxing, "Brother Long, you said that this guy is the Celestial Wolf King in disguise?" "Of course." Ji Tianxing nodded and said in a certain tone, "I observed carefully just now. Even though he unleashed all his strength, he still held back. That's because he wanted to retain a portion of his divine power to maintain a disguise of changing his appearance. However, no matter how he changed his appearance and concealed his divine power aura, he could not change his divine soul. I observed his divine soul and can tell that he is a dark silver celestial wolf. Also, the changes in his eyes and expression show that he knows the Fox Moon Divine King in you. Especially you, he has great hatred and fear." Ji Tianxing's analysis was clear and thorough. Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King heard it clearly. The 2 of them came to a sudden realization and immediately believed Ji Tianxing's judgment. As for the Red-Robed God King, he was filled with shock and disbelief. He looked at Ji Tianxing in great fear and asked, "Who are you?" Ji Tianxing's lips curled into a cold smile as he said, "Who I am is not important. The key is that we know who you are." Lu Ming and Fox Moon Divine King stared at the Red-Robed Divine King and sneered. "Celestial Wolf King, stop pretending. Reveal your true form. Heavenly Wolf King, we've already seen through your disguise. Is there a need for you to continue pretending?" The Red-Robed God King's expression was rather ugly. He stared at Ji Tianxing with a face full of resentment. He gritted his teeth and coldly shouted, "Little bastard, you win." As he spoke, his body lit up with dark silver starlight and his body began to transform. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a middle-aged demon who was more than 10 feet tall. His body did not look burly and muscular, but it was abnormally tough and contained terrifying explosive power. His cheeks were thin and his chin was slightly sharp. There was a pair of dark green pupils in his eyes that flickered with a frightening cold light. The ears on both sides of his temples were pointed and stood up high. It was clearly a pair of wolf ears. Without a doubt, this was the true form of the Celestial Wolf King. Lu Ming and Fox Moon Divine King stared at him, their pupils constricting as a sinister sneer appeared on their faces. "Celestial Wolf King, it's really you. Brother Long really has a discerning eye. You saw through the Celestial Wolf King's disguise with one look." At this very moment, Lu Ming was even more fearful and in awe of Ji Tianxing's strength and means. After all, he and Fox Moon Divine King were very familiar with the Celestial Wolf King, but they did not see through any clues. And Ji Tianxing had never seen the Celestial Wolf King before, but he could see through the Celestial Wolf King's disguise in such a short time. Such strength and means were simply astonishing. Since he had revealed his true form, the Celestial Wolf King no longer put on an act and immediately revealed his true form. He glared at Lu Ming and Fox Moon Divine King with a venomous gaze. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "You 2 damn bastards. Back then, if you did not side with the evildoers and help Qining deal with this king, how could this king lose to him? Everything that happened that day, this king remembers it well and will not forget it for a moment. This king once swore that one day this king will definitely turn all of you into ashes. Since you delivered yourselves to my doorstep today, this king will send you on your way." As he said that, the Celestial Wolf King's body lit up with a resplendent silver light, emitting an earth-shattering murderous aura. Not far away, the Tiger Race Divine King also realized that things were troublesome. They had met an extremely powerful opponent today. His expression was solemn and his eyes were grave. He silently took out a scarlet battle axe and held it tightly in his hands. Now he was holding a battle axe and a spear in both hands. His aura was even more powerful. When the tiger race divine king took out the battle axe, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned, his gaze fixed on the scarlet battle axe. Immediately, his brows relaxed and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Looks like my deduction was right. It was indeed the celestial wolf king who possessed the state preceptor and stole that battle axe. Lu Ming was about to fight with the celestial wolf king when he suddenly heard this. His gaze also landed on the scarlet battle axe. At the same time, the tiger race divine king was stunned, revealing a puzzled expression. The celestial wolf king revealed a stunned expression, his eyes widening in disbelief. He looked at Ji Tianqing and said, "It's you. Could it be that you came here not by coincidence but to investigate that matter?" Clearly, the celestial wolf king had finally recognized Ji Tianqing. It was that dragon race youth who appeared in Xianxia capital and caused a commotion in the city. Ji Tianqing sneered and said, "Celestial wolf king, you admit that you possessed the state preceptor and stole the battle axe. You also killed Xianxia?" As he said that, he held an image recording crystal in his left hand and recorded this scene. The celestial wolf king grinned coldly and said, I thought that I did things secretly and secretly. I didn't expect that you would still see through me. But you clearly left Tianxiang capital. Why are you still investigating this matter?" Ji Tianqing did not answer his question. Instead he continued asking, "It's good that you admit to that matter. However, I still want to ask you one more thing. How did that battle axe end up in his hands?" After saying that, he pointed at the dazed tiger race divine king. Clearly, the tiger race divine king did not know that the scarlet battle axe in his hands had such a complicated origin. The celestial wolf king narrowed his eyes and stared at Ji Tianqing with a dark gaze. He said, "Kid, I really didn't expect you to be so capable. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have hesitated in Tianxiang capital back then. I should have killed you halfway back then and refined you." Ji Tianqing pondered for a moment and immediately understood what he meant. He analyzed and said, "Before I appeared in Tianxiang capital, you had already possessed the state preceptor. Perhaps you had other plans previously. However, after I appeared, you wanted to kill me and refine my dragon race bloodline to become a noble dragon race member? However, you didn't have the confidence to kill me. You were also afraid that things would blow up and your identity would be exposed. You would then be hunted down by Lu Ming and the Tianren domain lord. Later on, you went to look for Xianxia and accidentally found her unconscious on the ground. The battle axe was placed on the table, so you stole it. You were afraid that Xianxia would be exposed when she woke up, so you killed her." Chapter 3595. I've really underestimated you. You're not bad. Your analysis is clear and logical, as if you've seen it with your own eyes. The heavenly wolf king stared sharply at Ji Tianqing, his tone revealing a piercing murderous intent. His words undoubtedly proved that Ji Tianqing's conjecture was correct. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief and gave Ji Tianqing a thumbs up in his heart. He recalled how he felt when Ji Tianqing raised this conjecture in the capital that day. He was very thankful that he had hesitated a little and chose to believe Ji Tianqing and accompany him to investigate the truth. If not, it would have become an unjust case and the truth would not have come to light today. Lu Ming thought to himself, his abilities, methods, and intelligence are still the same as before. No, he's even more outstanding than before. Is the current him really a fallen genius? Lu Ming began to have doubts and even overturned his previous understanding. At this moment, Ji Tianqing put away the photographic crystal and sneered at the Heavenly Wolf King. "Heavenly Wolf King, although you're very sinister and despicable, you still have some backbone and dare to admit that you did all this." The Heavenly Wolf King was about to speak. At this moment, the Tiger Tribe's divine king finally asked the question in his heart after holding it in for a long time. He waved the crimson battle axe in his hand and questioned the Heavenly Wolf King. "Heavenly Wolf King, didn't you tell me that this battle axe was personally refined by you? You even swore that you had mastered an extremely profound crafting technique. Not only can you refine inferior grade and middle grade king grade divine weapons, but you can even refine a superior grade king grade divine weapon?" The Heavenly Wolf King was instantly embarrassed and stammered, unable to speak. The Tiger Tribe's divine king continued to ask, "Heavenly Wolf King, I believe you and treat you as a brother. How can you deceive me like this? It's just a mere inferior-grade king-grade battle axe. Although it's priceless, it's not enough to move me. I'm only willing to become sworn brothers with you on account of your sincerity and want to roam the world with you. I didn't expect that even this battle axe was stolen." The Tiger Tribe godly monarch realized that he had been tricked, and he angrily questioned the Heavenly Wolf monarch. The Heavenly Wolf King sensed that something was amiss and hurriedly changed the topic. "Golden Tiger King, now is not the time to talk about this. I will explain it to you later. Now these bastards want to take our lives. How can you believe their words?" In fact, the Heavenly Wolf King and the Golden Tiger King had only known each other for a short while. The Golden Tiger King came from another region and lived in the northernmost part of the Astral Source continent. He did not understand the situation here. He knew nothing about Welkin Wolf King's past. He charged toward Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming. Above the abyss not far away, the Golden Tiger King also roared and waved his long spear and battle axe to attack the Fox Moon Divine King. An earth-shattering battle broke out immediately. The 5 divine kings used their special skills and tried to kill each other as quickly as possible. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dazzling 5-colored divine light collided violently above the abyss, creating a series of earth-shattering explosions. The earth-shattering explosion created a violent shockwave that swept through everything around the abyss. The naturally formed 5-colored light shield shook violently from the impact and was on the verge of shattering. As for the cliffs and rock walls around the abyss, no matter how hard they were, they could not withstand such a terrifying impact and immediately collapsed, shattering thousands of miles away. The entire abyss was shaking violently. Everything within a 10,000-mile radius was shaking. There were also muffled rumbling sounds that spread underground. Countless pieces of rubble fell from the shattered walls into the abyss and smashed into the 5-colored light shield. Fortunately, this battle only lasted for 10 breaths of time before it ended quickly. If not, the entire abyss would have been destroyed. After more than 10 moves, the Heavenly Wolf King was killed by Ji Tianxing. With a move of the God-slaying sword, he cut the Heavenly Wolf King into 2 and destroyed his divine body. With another move of the Dragon Elephant Divine Fist, he shattered the Heavenly Wolf King's divine spark and killed him on the spot. Originally, Lu Ming could not do anything to the Heavenly Wolf King even after 12 consecutive moves. He thought that there would be a tough battle today. He would probably have to fight for a few hours and only be able to severely injure the Heavenly Wolf King. If he was not careful, the Heavenly Wolf King might escape and he would have to hunt him down. However, he did not expect Ji Tianxing to kill the Heavenly Wolf King so easily and quickly. As a result, when the Heavenly Wolf King's divine spark was shattered, his face was filled with shock and disbelief. Ji Tianxing did not stop. With a wave of his hand, he put away the Heavenly Wolf King's divine spark fragments and charged toward the Golden Tiger King with his sword. On the other hand, Lu Ming's feelings were much more complicated. While he was full of shock and emotions, he also secretly rejoiced. Oh my God! In this 1,000 years, Long Tian's strength realm did not change, but his combat strength and methods were several times stronger. Previously, I thought that he was a fallen genius and that it would be difficult for him to achieve great things in the future. Now it seems that I was too ignorant and short-sighted. I'm sure that he has been accumulating and strengthening his foundation for the divine Tao for the past 1,000 years. Only by accumulating will he be able to break through to a higher realm. Perhaps it won't be long before he breaks through to become a high-level God King and becomes famous again. Fortunately, I was still polite to him previously and did not create any unpleasantness. If I really fell out with him and even fought with him, the person who would be dead now would be me. Unknowingly, Lu Ming's attitude towards Ji Tianxing became more and more respectful and polite. When the divine light in the sky dissipated and the loud, dull sound dissipated, Ji Tianxing flew in front of Lu Ming and handed him the photographic crystal. I have already recorded the scene of the Heavenly Wolf King admitting his guilt. Take this photographic crystal and you will be able to answer to the Emperor of Tianxiang. Lu Ming hurriedly accepted the photographic crystal and nodded. Brother Long is very thoughtful. This matter has finally come to light and been resolved satisfactorily. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and pointed to the 5-colored light shield beneath his feet. The core of the mystic realm should be below this abyss. Let's go and take a look. That's what I was thinking. Lu Ming naturally could not ask for more and quickly nodded in agreement. The Fox Moon Divine King also hurriedly took the initiative to introduce. Territorial Lord Lu, young Master Long, I have explored this abyss before. The divine array that shrouds the abyss does not seem to be man-made but formed naturally. Originally, with our strength and means, it would take some effort to crack the divine array. Now that the divine array has been battered to pieces, we can easily crack it. Although he was introducing the situation of the abyss, he had unknowingly closed the distance between him and Ji Tianxing and Lu Ming. At the same time, he also vaguely expressed his intention to participate in the exploration and wanted to have a share of the loot. The Fox Moon Divine King was indeed from the Fox clan. Naturally, he was quick-witted and not annoying. Ji Tianxing did not refuse and said with an indifferent expression, "Then let's go down and take a look." With that, he waved his sword and slashed out a ray of sword light, breaking the messy five-colored light shield and stepping into it first. Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King hurriedly followed and passed through the crack in the five-colored light shield and entered the abyss. The three of them flew all the way down and arrived at the bottom of the abyss after flying for a few hundred miles. Looking from above, the abyss had a radius of 300 miles. But in reality, this abyss was like a deep pit, big at the top and small at the bottom. The bottom of the abyss only had a radius of 100 miles and there were jagged rocks everywhere, uneven and bumpy. The area in the middle was still considered flat but was covered with large amounts of gravel and soil. Between the gravel and soil, there were some strange red rocks that stood between the rocks occasionally. At first glance, there was nothing unusual. However, Ji Tianxing could tell with a single glance that those lone crimson rocks were not real rocks. They were the skeletons of divine dragons. The entire abyss was filled with an extremely strong dragon's aura. All the soil and rocks had been eroded by the dragon's aura for more than 10,000 years and were dyed red with blood. It was no exaggeration to say that the rock walls, rocks and soil in this abyss had all become priceless treasures. Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King were stunned for a moment and also realized this point. Instantly, they were so excited that their blood boiled and could not help but exclaim, "Oh my God! The divine dragon's aura here is actually so strong? That's a red rock? No. That seems to be the skeleton of a divine dragon. It's no wonder the rumors say that this mystic realm is related to divine dragons. I didn't expect that a dragon's corpse was buried here. This divine dragon had the strength of a god king when it was alive. We're rich." Just as the two of them were wild with excitement and their faces were flushed with excitement, Ji Tianxing waved his hand and shot out thousands of golden rays that disappeared into the abyss. As the golden light flashed, the gravel and soil within a radius of 100 miles were all cleaned up. Soon, a complete divine dragon's corpse was presented in front of the three of them. This was a crimson-red dragon that was 100 miles long. Even though the dragon's corpse had been buried for more than 10,000 years and its flesh had long disappeared, leaving behind only a skeleton, it still exuded a strong divine aura. Chapter 3597. Seeing the red dragon's skeleton with their own eyes, Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King were even more excited. The two of them surrounded the red dragon's skeleton. As they observed it carefully, they clicked their tongues in admiration. "I can't believe that this red dragon skeleton is so well preserved. It's indeed a divine dragon. Even after more than 10,000 years, its skeleton is still intact and full of divine power. Be it refining divine weapons, divine pills, or setting up divine arrays, this dragon's skeleton is a top-notch material. Even 10 or 50 mineral veins can't compare to the value of this dragon's skeleton. This trip is worth it. It's really worth it." Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King exclaimed in admiration. In their minds, they were already fantasizing about what to do with this dragon's skeleton. At this moment, Ji Tianxing flew to the skull of the dragon's skeleton. The skull of a divine dragon was very complicated. It was densely packed with thousands of bones forming layers of protective nets. He discovered that there was a fist-sized red crystal in the skull of this red dragon. It was still emitting a dim divine light. After careful observation, he was certain that it was an incomplete dragon ball. Half an incomplete dragon ball? It seems that this red dragon was severely injured when it was alive and was in a coma here for many years. In the end, its injuries did not heal on their own. Instead, they worsened and it died here. Ji Tianxing came to this conclusion after combining the results of his previous observations. After all, although the red dragon's skeleton looked complete, it was actually damaged and broken in many places. It was only because the skeleton had been buried for 10,000 years that it was covered with sand and gravel. There were no visible problems. If one were to observe carefully like Ji Tianxing, one would discover that the damaged bones were at the vital parts. Of course, it was not important what this red dragon had experienced when it was alive or how severe its injuries were. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing waved his hand and shot out a dazzling golden light, enveloping the entire dragon's skeleton. As he raised his palm gently, the entire dragon's skeleton was pulled out of the ground, bringing with it countless gravel and sand as it floated into the air. Immediately after, there was a flash of light and the dragon's skeleton disappeared. It was kept in Ji Tianxing's spatial ring. Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King were stunned. They looked at Ji Tianxing in confusion. Brother Long Yu, young Master Long Yu. Both of them could see that Ji Tianxing wanted to take the whole dragon bone for himself. However, they did not dare to believe that such a noble and powerful expert like Ji Tianxing would do something so ungentlemanly. The two of them were still present. Also, why aren't you saying anything? Are you just going to watch him take the dragon bones for himself and not even dare to say a word of justice? Lu Ming frowned and said with a bitter smile, Fox Moon Divine King, don't forget that the Celestial Wolf King was discovered by him and the Golden Tiger King was also killed by him. If not for him, we would still be fighting the Celestial Wolf King and the Golden Tiger King. In any case, I advise you to swallow this anger and not provoke him anymore. Think about what happened to the Celestial Wolf King and the Golden Tiger King. Hearing this, the Fox Moon Divine King fell silent. His expression became even uglier. That was right. He had already witnessed Ji Tianxing's terrifying strength and means with his own eyes. Moreover, he could also tell that Ji Tianxing looked calm and indifferent, but in fact he was calm and decisive. If he continued to pester, he would definitely infuriate Ji Tianxing. Lu Ming had friendly relations with Ji Tianxing, but he did not know Ji Tianxing. At that time, Ji Tianxing would kill him in a rage and he would have no one to reason with. Thinking of this, the Fox Moon Divine King could only suppress his anger and choose to swallow his anger. But he was still somewhat indignant in his heart and muttered to Lu Ming angrily. Territorial Lord Lu, although you have a close relationship with this Long Tian, I still want to give you a word of advice. Although this person is strong, he is unreasonable and domineering. You must not let him stay in the Green Lotus region. That is nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. Be careful that he becomes the second Celestial Wolf King. This sentence was a blatant attempt to drive a wedge between them. Lu Ming glanced at the Fox Moon Divine King and said with a playful smile, Fox Moon Divine King, although I understand your feelings, this sentence of yours is really laughable. Forget it if you haven't heard of Long Tian's reputation and deeds. Go back and ask your territorial lord. Given Long Tian's status and background, even if you give him the positions of the two territorial lords of Tianren and Green Lotus region, he wouldn't care, let alone covet the Green Lotus region. The Fox Moon Divine King's expression stiffened. He was so embarrassed that he could not show his face. Chapter 3598. Although Fox Moon Divine King was not clear about Ji Tianxing's background, but from Lu Ming's tone he could guess that Ji Tianxing's background was definitely not simple. He could even disregard the two territorial lords. To Fox Moon Divine King, such a powerful person with such a background was already unattainable. He could not afford to offend him. Since that was the case, he could only suffer in silence and keep his mouth shut. Let's go. Lu Ming patted him on the shoulder, revealing a comforting look, and led the way to the top of the abyss. Fox Moon Divine King hesitated for a moment before hurrying to catch up, saying in a low voice, "Thank you." That was right, he indeed had to thank Lu Ming for his advice and reminder. If not, he would definitely fall out with Ji Tianxing, and the one who would suffer would definitely be him. A moment later, Ji Tianxing left the abyss, with Lu Ming and Fox Moon Divine King following closely behind. The commotion caused by the battle earlier had alarmed many people underground. Those experts and adventure teams were searching for treasures in the caves, canyons and crevices underground. At this moment, countless people were rushing towards the Dragon Corpse abyss, wanting to find out what was going on. Ji Tianxing did not want to waste any time, so he left with Lu Ming and Fox Moon Divine King, flying towards the surface. Along the way, Fox Moon Divine King remained silent and did not raise any objections. He pretended that nothing had happened in the Dragon Corpse abyss. Before long, Ji Tianxing and the other two returned to the cave. Peng Fei was still working hard to excavate divine stones and mineral veins. He was so busy that he was sweating profusely, but he was having a great time. When he saw Ji Tianqing and the other two, he stopped excavating and hurriedly asked, "Senior Long Tian, Martial Uncle, why are you back? Have you found the Celestial Wolf King?" Lu Ming nodded and said, "We found him. After the truth was revealed, Brother Long killed him. Everything is over, we should leave." "Oh, so fast." Peng Fei was a little dumbfounded, finding it unbelievable. After a moment of daze, he continued to ask, "Since the Celestial Wolf King's matter is settled, what about the treasures in the mystic realm? Divine Dragon's inheritance and divine weapon. Have you found them?" Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King did not answer. They only looked at Ji Tianqing at the same time. What kind of person was Peng Fei? Although Lu Ming and Fox Moon Divine King did not answer, Peng Fei could guess the answer based on their expressions and eyes. He was stunned. "Oh my god. Can't be, right? Senior Long Tian has already found Shenlong's treasure?" Lu Ming did not utter a word, trying his best to remain calm. While Fox Moon God King remained silent, her heart was bleeding. Her expression and eyes were naturally ugly. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Yet Peng Fei didn't notice and asked Ji Tianqing with a heart full of excitement, "Senior, what treasure did you find? Dragon balls? Legacy of the Divine Dragon? Or a related divine artifact or cultivation technique?" Ji Tianqing did not answer him and said with a calm expression, "Peng Fei, we were able to find the real culprit so quickly and find out the truth thanks to you. Anyway, I want to thank you. I owe you a favor. If you have any problems in the future that you can't solve, I can help you once." After saying that, he took out a communication jade slip and handed it to Peng Fei. Peng Fei's eyes widened in disbelief, and he took the communication jade slip with both hands stiffly, exclaiming in a low voice, Is this true? You can help with anything?" Ji Tianqing only smiled and did not say anything. He waved to everyone and said, "There are still large amounts of divine stones and mineral veins hidden underground. If you don't want to make a wasted trip, then excavate more. Goodbye." As his voice fell, he turned and left without any hesitation. Fox Moon Divine King heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that this guy had finally left. After all, Ji Tianqing was like a huge mountain, pressing down on him until he could not breathe. Lu Ming was stunned for a moment, and a look of disappointment flashed across his eyes. He knew that once Long Tian left, he did not know when they would meet again. It was a pity that he could not build a good relationship with Long Tian during this period of time and form a deep friendship. Otherwise, they could still keep in touch and help each other in the future. At the thought of this, Lu Ming was actually somewhat envious of Long Fei. That kid was muddle-headed and obtained Long Tian's favor, even leaving behind a communication jade slip. What an honor this was. Among the three, Peng Fei's reaction was the greatest. He did not even want the divine stones and mineral veins anymore, hurriedly rushing out of the cave and catching up to Ji Tianqing. "Senior Long Tian, wait for me." After chasing for 800 miles, Peng Fei finally caught up. Ji Tianqing stopped in his tracks and turned back to look at him, asking with a frown, "Is there anything else?" Peng Fei held the communication jade slip with both hands and handed it to him, saying in a sincere tone, "Senior Long Tian, I'll return the communication jade slip to you. You don't need to owe me a favor anymore. How about this? I'll follow you. No matter where you go, just bring me along. Don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble. In fact, I'll serve you wholeheartedly, even be your guard and servant." Ji Tianqing looked at the communication jade slip, then looked at his serious expression and was suddenly somewhat speechless. This kid is really shrewd. He silently sighed with emotion in his heart. Chapter 3599. Half an hour later. Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei left the underground and returned to the Mirage Sea Forest. The two of them stopped above the vast forest and waited for a while before Lu Ming and the Fox Moon Divine King appeared. The Fox Moon Divine King did not go near Ji Tianqing. He bade farewell to Lu Ming and left. Lu Ming flew in front of Ji Tianqing and cupped his hands, saying, "Brother Long, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Aren't you going to stay at my domain master's mansion for a few days?" Ji Tianqing waved his hands and said, "Thank you for your hospitality, Brother Lu. However, I have other matters to attend to. I'll take my leave now. As for Peng Fei, I'll have to trouble Brother Lu to inform his master that I'm taking him away. He wants to go out with me and explore the outside world. He can come back whenever he wants. Lu Ming frowned and looked at Ping Fei sternly, giving him a warning look. He did not dare to reprimand Ping Fei face to face. Instead, he reprimanded him using his divine senses. Brat, what are you up to? You didn't report this to your master or me. How can you make such a decision on your own? Peng Fei pretended not to hear Lu Ming's voice transmission. He bowed and said with a smile, "Thank you for your support and encouragement, Martial Uncle. I'll follow Senior Long Tian and do my best to serve him. I'll learn humbly and seriously." Lu Ming was so angry that his lungs almost exploded. He wished he could give him 2 tight slaps. Since Ji Tianxing was present, Lu Ming could only suppress his anger. He glared at Peng Fei and warned him with a voice transmission, "Brat, don't think that I don't know what you're up to. Let me tell you, Long Tian's identity and background are beyond your imagination. Given your strength, you're not qualified to follow him and explore the world. You might become cannon fodder one day. Long Tian is present. I won't say much to you. However, you have to be smart. Find a chance to leave in a few days and come back obediently." Peng Fei maintained his smile and nodded repeatedly. "I'll remember Martial Uncle's teachings. Rest assured." Just like that, the warning before he left ended. Ji Tianxing cupped his hands toward Lu Ming and left with Peng Fei. Peng Fei very consciously revealed his true form, becoming a golden-winged peng. Carrying Ji Tianxing, he flew into the sky, heading straight towards the northeast. Lu Ming stood rooted to the ground. Seeing Peng Fei fawning on Ji Tianxing without any bottom line, the green veins on his forehead could not help but twitch. "Detestable brat, how am I supposed to explain this to your master?" After a long time he let out a helpless sigh, turned around and left. The golden-winged great peng flew above the vast sea of clouds, its speed as fast as lightning. Ji Tianxing stood on the back of the golden rock with his hands clasped behind his back. His posture was proud and his whole body was filled with a sacred and majestic aura. It had to be said that riding a golden-winged rock was much more solemn and dignified than riding a divine warship. "Senior, where are we going now?" Peng Fei really wanted to rush with all his might, but he had to first figure out the direction and goal. "Xuanji Wonderland," Ji Tianxing replied with an indifferent expression. "Enigmatic paradise? Paradise?" Peng Fei was stunned for a moment before he came to his senses. He was so shocked that his body trembled. "Senior, are you sure you're not joking with me?" Peng Fei's voice was trembling and his tone was strange. Fortunately, it was Ji Tianxing who said those words. If it were someone else, he would have flown into a rage. Nonsense. Enigmatic paradise. Was it a place where anyone could go? That was the cave abode of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, the supreme sacred ground of the Star Source continent. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was the master and ruler of the Star Source continent, the pinnacle of the godly king. He wanted to go to enigmatic paradise as he wished. Was he tired of living? Ji Tianxing's expression was still calm as he asked calmly, "Why? Are you scared? If you don't dare to go, then you'd better return to Mount Wuhua as soon as possible." This. Peng Fei hesitated for a moment, unwilling to admit the respect and fear in his heart. "Senior, I've said that no matter where you go I'll follow. But you don't have to use this to test me. You can't joke about this. Enigmatic paradise is the cave abode of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor." Ji Tianxing's lips curled into a smile as he nodded. "That's right. I'll go there because enigmatic paradise is the cave abode of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor." "Are you serious?" Peng Fei could tell that Ji Tianxing was not joking or deliberately testing him. He really wanted to go to enigmatic paradise. "Senior, may I ask if you're going to enigmatic paradise to meet the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor?" Ji Tianxing nodded again and explained, "Yes, I have something to ask him face to face." Before this, he had asked Lu Ming about the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's recent situation. At the same time, he also indirectly asked if there was a human youth by the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's side. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's status was not high enough and he was very far away from enigmatic paradise. He did not know about this at all. Ji Tianxing had no choice but to go to enigmatic paradise personally and ask the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor face to face. Peng Fei hesitated for a moment and asked, "Senior, do you know the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor?" Ji Tianxing thought for a while and memories of the past appeared in his mind. He nodded and said, "I guess I know him." Back then he did have the chance to meet the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, and they even exchanged a few words. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor even praised him face to face and gave him a few words of encouragement. However, at that time he was only a young genius who was famous everywhere. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was already a peak god king and the overlord of the Star Source continent. He was not sure if the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor still remembered him. Peng Fei's expression suddenly became complicated. He muttered, "What do you mean by you know him? Senior, if you're not completely confident, let's forget about it." "Why do you say so?" Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows. Peng Fei hurriedly explained, "The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's status is too high and he hasn't shown his face for close to 1,000 years. He seems to have been cultivating in seclusion, trying to surpass the God King realm and reach a higher realm. Even if you know him, you might not be able to see him when you reach the Xuanji Grotto heaven. Moreover, you don't have any friendship with the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Even if we reach the Xuanji Grotto heaven, we can't even enter the door." At this point he was afraid that Ji Tianxing would be angry and hurriedly explained. "Senior, don't be angry. I don't mean to look down on you. I also know that you're a powerhouse with a noble status and a very strong background. However, that Golden Origin Dragon Emperor is not ordinary after all." Without waiting for Peng Fei to finish, Ji Tianxing interrupted him and said indifferently, "No need to say so much. I'm definitely going to the Xuanji Grotto heaven. Not just the Xuanji Grotto heaven, there's also the overlords of the other continents. I might have to visit them one by one. If you're scared, go back as soon as possible so that you won't be implicated by me." Hearing him say so, Peng Fei instantly fell silent. He pursed his lips tightly and thought for a moment before making up his mind. "Forget it. I said that I'll follow you. Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire, I can't go back on my words. Since you have such courage and boldness, how can I shrink back in fear? I'll go with you and take it as increasing my experience and knowledge." Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 3600. Regardless of whether Peng Fei braced himself or seriously considered it, it was fine. Either way, he was determined to follow Ji Tianxing to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's Xuanji Grotto heaven. Since this matter was decided, Ji Tianxing did not say anything else. Peng Fei hurried on with all his might. He took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda and placed it on Peng Fei's back. Then he entered the Divine Pagoda's distorted spacetime and entered closed-door cultivation. Of course, before entering closed-door cultivation, he handed the Crimson Dragon's corpse to the White Dragon and Black Dragon. That complete corpse plus half a dragon pearl was a supreme treasure to the White Dragon and Black Dragon. Ji Tianxing examined it seriously and determined that the Crimson Dragon's corpse was a high-rank god king when it was alive. As long as the White Dragon and Black Dragon refined the dragon corpse and dragon pearl, they would definitely break through to the god king realm in time. After all, the two of them had long become high-rank godlords and were not far from the god king realm. After dealing with the dragon corpse, Ji Tianxing entered closed-door cultivation in peace and worked hard to increase his strength. He first refined the Heavenly Wolf King and Golden Tiger King's divine spark fragments. While his strength increased, the number of divine Dao laws he grasped also increased by more than a dozen. Now the number of divine Dao laws he grasped reached as many as 520. After refining the 2 divine sparks, he continued to comprehend the heaven-punishing divine art and cultivate all kinds of divine abilities. Although he had the chance to meet the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor back then. But he also did not have the confidence to be able to meet the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor with his own eyes. No matter what, increasing his strength first was the most important. Xuanji Grotto Heaven was located in the central region of the Star Source continent, within the Divine Star Field. The Green Lotus region was in the southwest of the Star Source continent, separated from the Divine Star Field by more than 20 regions. Even if Peng Fei flew at full speed, it would also take half a year. Of course, he also had times when he was tired and had no choice but to stop and rest. Along the way, he ran into trouble a few times and was delayed for some time. The identity of a golden-winged great roc was seriously too eye-catching, attracting the covetous eyes of many people with ulterior motives. For example, those God King powerhouses whose strength was not ordinary but bloodline grade was very ordinary. They wanted to capture Peng Fei, refine him, devour and seize his golden roc bloodline. There were also some powerful demonic beasts and ferocious beasts that lived in the wilderness. To them, most of the demonic beasts were ordinary food. Only demonic nobles like the Golden Roc, Lu Wu, and Xianxia were delicious food. If he could capture and devour it, it would definitely bring him great benefits. These people who dared to make a move against Peng Fei were basically all powerhouses that he could not afford to provoke. Even if there were some demonic beasts whose strength was not far off from his, they moved in groups. Because of this, Peng Fei was extremely vexed. He also experienced great danger and crisis. Originally, he wanted to call out to Zhi Tianxing and ask him to help. Based on Zhi Tianxing's formidable strength, those demon race god kings and powerful demonic beasts were simply unable to withstand a single blow. But Peng Fei knew that Zhi Tianxing was currently cultivating in close seclusion and should not be disturbed. Moreover, he also wanted to prove to Zhi Tianxing that he was not a weak burden. He could also use his strength, talent, and wisdom to solve all kinds of problems. Reality proved that Peng Fei really did it. Regardless of whether he was facing a monster race god king or a group of monster beasts, he was able to remain calm and collected. He was able to quickly think of a way to get out of danger. Even though some methods were very complicated and took a very long time. But he finally used his wisdom and various methods to turn danger into safety, escaping danger. Even though he suffered considerable injuries after going through 4 or 5 dangerous situations. But his heart was proud and satisfied. Just like this, the original half a year to reach the Divine Star Domain became a full 7 months in the end. In these 7 months, Peng Fei crossed half of the Star Source continent and experienced all kinds of dangers and crises. He grew a lot imperceptibly. And Zhi Tianxing cultivated in close seclusion for a total of 29 years in the distorted space-time. In these 29 years, his comprehension and control of the heaven-punishing divine art reached an even more profound level. At the same time, his strength also increased steadily. When the conditions were right, he broke through to the 5th-level Divine King realm and consolidated his foundation of the Divine Tao. The Divine Star Domain was very vast. Xuanji Grotto Heaven was a grotto heaven that had existed since ancient times. It was naturally not on land or in the forest, but hidden in an alternate space. The entrance was above the firmament. On this evening, the sun was setting in the west. A golden-winged great ping streaked across the sky above the sea of clouds like lightning, flying towards Sky Crane Mountain. Zoosh. Even if ordinary people knew about the existence of Xuanji Grotto Heaven, they would not know where the entrance was. Fortunately, Zhi Tianxing knew that the entrance to Xuanji Grotto Heaven was in the depths of Sky Crane Mountain. The closer they got to Sky Crane Mountain, the more nervous Peng Fei became. At the same time, there was a trace of longing and anticipation. The previous 7 months of adventures had made him forget about the fear of going to Xuanji Grotto Heaven. Now that they were about to reach their destination, the fear and uneasiness in the bottom of his heart exploded again. Senior, what do you think Xuanji Grotto Heaven is like? Would there be a lot of guards and a lot of God King experts standing guard? Those guards and God Kings are staying in Xuanji Grotto Heaven to serve the Golden Source Dragon Emperor. They must be very arrogant, right? If we go there like this, won't we be despised and chased away? They were about to reach Xuanji Grotto Heaven. It would be a lie to say that they were not nervous. Peng Fei's tone was filled with hesitation and worry. His previous confidence had disappeared without a trace. Zhi Tianxing said calmly, Xuanji Grotto Heaven is the abode of the overlord of the continent. Of course, there will be countless guards and experts guarding it. As for whether they are arrogant or not, who knows without seeing it with their own eyes. But no matter what, if we go there with sincerity, there should still be a chance. Peng Fei was silent for a while. Suddenly, he thought of something and quickly asked, Senior, I heard from Martial Uncle that your identity and background are not simple. Since you have met the Golden Source Dragon Emperor, it means that your background is qualified to meet the Golden Source Dragon Emperor. In this case, if you take the initiative to report your identity and background, you should be able to meet the Golden Source Dragon Emperor, right? Zhi Tianxing was silent. His eyes were a little complicated. He thought to himself, if the old dragon comes here personally, of course he can bring me into Xuanji Grotto Heaven and meet the Golden Source Dragon Emperor. However, 1,000 years have passed. I wonder if the relationship between the old dragon and the Golden Source Dragon Emperor is still the same as before. How are they doing recently? Peng Fei saw Zhi Tianxing's silence and instantly guessed the answer. His eyes dimmed. He did not say anything else and continued to fly in silence. Finally, when night fell, Peng Fei saw a mountain peak appear in the vast sea of clouds in front of him. The mountain peak with a radius of 50 kilometers was faintly discernible in the sea of clouds. It was illusory. Right above the mountain peak there was a huge white light vortex. It was like a bright moon hanging in the sky. Seeing this, Peng Fei immediately perked up and slowed down his flying speed. This was because the mountain peak faintly discernible in the sea of clouds was Sky Crane Mountain. And that white light vortex was the entrance to Xuanji Grotto Heaven. Chapter 3601. Phew. I'm finally here. Peng Fei flapped his wings and slowly landed on the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. He looked up at the moon in the sky and murmured with bright eyes. Although he was nervous, uneasy and worried, he also had some anticipation and excitement. He had imagined that Senior Long Tian's background was very impressive and that he would be welcomed into the Xuanji Grotto Heaven after announcing his identity. At that time he would be able to follow Senior Long Tian into the Xuanji Grotto Heaven for a tour. Even if he did not gain anything, just being able to enter the Xuanji Grotto Heaven once was enough for him to be excited and proud for a few hundred years. Swoosh. With a flash of golden light, Peng Fei reverted to his original form and turned back into a young demon. Tianxia landed on the peak of the mountain and stood in the sea of clouds. He looked up at the moon-like entrance of the Xuanji Grotto Heaven and observed silently. He had met the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor before. However, this was his first time in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven. In the past he had only heard other godly kings talk about how glorious and majestic the Xuanji Grotto Heaven was. Now that he was seeing it with his own eyes, even if it was just the entrance of the Xuanji Grotto Heaven, he felt the same way. The Xuanji Grotto Heaven was like a divine eye that hung in the sky and looked down on the entire Starsource continent. It represented absolute power and authority, making billions of demons in the world submit and look up to it. Peng Fei looked up at the entrance of the Xuanji Grotto Heaven and was also stunned by the majestic aura. His heart was filled with endless respect. Just as the two of them were feeling emotional, a few beams of divine light flew over from the sea of clouds and landed on the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. Swoosh, swoosh. The newcomers were 4 godly kings in golden armor and holding halberds. The 4 of them were of different races, but they all looked like middle-aged men. They looked cold and gave off a majestic and murderous aura. Tianxia secretly used his divine perception to check and found that the 4 of them were all upper godly kings. Moreover, they were all 8th-level godly kings. Experts of this level would be overlords anywhere in the Starsource continent. They were far stronger than 99% of the region lords. Who are you? Tell us your names. 4 divine kings wielding halberds surrounded Tianxia and Peng Fei as they coldly and sternly shouted. Without a doubt, they were the guards of the Enigma Grotto, guarding the entrance of the grotto. Peng Fei was expressionless on the surface, but in reality he was extremely shocked in his heart. Oh my god. This was too inconceivable. 4 high god kings were actually only guards at the entrance of the Profound Secrets Grotto? You can imagine how many high god kings there are in the Profound Secrets Grotto. In Peng Fei's view, high divine kings were very rarely seen, powerhouses with revered statuses. If placed in any continent of the Dragon Realm, he would be able to control the most prosperous area and become the ruler of a region. But in the Xuanji Grotto, this was too terrifying. The resources of the Xuanji Wonderland and the forces under the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor were indeed terrifying. Tianxia was also somewhat surprised, but didn't have as big of a reaction as Peng Fei. His gaze swept across the 4 high-level god kings before he cupped his hands and said calmly, I am Long Tian and I am here to meet the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The 4 high-level god kings all frowned, a hint of disdain and coldness flashing across their eyes. This name is very unfamiliar. Never heard of it at all. An unknown brat also vainly wishes to have an audience with His Majesty the Dragon Emperor. Brat, did you contact the Chief Steward in advance? Without the Chief Steward's approval, nobody can think about entering the Profound Secrets Grotto. His Majesty the Dragon Emperor isn't someone that any random Tom, Dick or Harry can have an audience with. You can scram now. The 4 high-level god kings' attitudes were very disdainful and domineering, immediately wanting to chase Tianxia away. Tianxia immediately frowned, his expression indifferent, his eyes cold. Peng Fei was also filled with rage, feeling very humiliated. Indeed, I guessed correctly. I had long expected that the guards guarding the profound secrets grotto would definitely be very arrogant. Didn't expect that not only were they arrogant, but they were also very arrogant and domineering. Truly detestable. Of course he could only think these words in his heart and did not dare to say them out loud. Xianxia thought of the purpose of this trip, to investigate the whereabouts of his son, could only temporarily suppress his anger and said expressionlessly, "Everyone, I am Long Tian, the last disciple of Dragon Emperor Feng Tian. I have an important matter to discuss with Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Please inform him." Ever since entering the Dragon Realm, Xianxia had always been low-key and had never revealed his identity or background. But this time, in order to meet Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, he had no choice but to reveal his identity and background. As expected, the 4 high-level God Kings were stunned for a moment, and the disdain and contempt on their faces disappeared. The 4 of them looked at each other and whispered secretly. Dragon Emperor Feng Tian? The ruler of the heavenly dragon continent? Seems like it. But that was in the past. What did this brat say? He is Dragon Emperor Feng Tian's last disciple? That's not very likely, right? How can Dragon Emperor Feng Tian's disciple be so shabby and without any ostentation? Whether he is or not, we'd rather believe it than not. Let's report to the General Director first. Yes, before we understand the situation, let's ask the General Director to make a decision. Soon the 4 high-level God Kings finished their discussion. One of them took out a communication jade slip and sent a message to the General Director to report the situation. Another God King looked at Xianxia and said expressionlessly, "Wait here, we have to ask the General Director." General Director? Xianxia raised his eyebrows and carefully recalled for a while before asking, "Is it God King Dark Death?" He vaguely remembered that God King Dark Death was a 9th-degree realm cultivator back then. He was deeply trusted and valued by Golden Origin Dragon Emperor and was his right-hand man. Speaking of which, when he followed Dragon Emperor Feng Tian and met Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, God King Dark Death was also present. At that time, God King Dark Death had looked at him a few times and even chatted with him. No matter what, God King Dark Death should remember him. But it was a pity. The 4 high-level God Kings frowned at the same time as they revealed a surprised and amused expression. You actually know God King Dark Death? Kid, tell us honestly, what's your relationship with God King Dark Death? Our General Director is God King Heartless. For some reason, Xianxia could hear a trace of vigilance and hatred in the 4 God Kings' tone. It seemed like they did not like God King Dark Death. As for the God King Heartless that they mentioned, Xianxia had never heard of him before. Sensing that there was a problem with their attitude towards God King Dark Death, he did not mention him and simply waited silently. Not long later, the white light vortex high in the sky lit up. Swoosh! A golden crow race man wrapped in 5-colored divine light flew out of the white light vortex and arrived at the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. This thin man with a head full of black hair was covered in dark gold. He had a long and cold face. His dark purple eyes and golden pupils emitted a cold and dangerous aura. This was Mysterious Grotto Heaven's General Director, God King Heartless. One look and one could tell that he was not a kind person. Chapter 3602. Greetings to the head steward. Seeing the heartless Divine King arrive, the 4 high-ranking Divine Kings hurriedly bowed, saluting with respectful manners. Xianxia and Ping Fei did not open their mouths to speak, but they also bowed slightly to indicate. The heartless Divine King ignored everyone, his face expressionless as he stared at Xianxia with a dark gaze. Your Long Tian, Dragon Emperor Sealing Sky's closed-door disciple? Xianxia did not have a good impression of this person. Furthermore, he could tell that this person came with ill intentions, so he just nodded his head and did not say anything. The corners of the heartless Divine King's mouth curled, immediately curling into a mocking sneer. 1,000 years ago, this king indeed heard before that Dragon Emperor Sealing Sky only took in 1 disciple in his lifetime, called Long Tian. It was said that back then Long Tian was a divine Tao prodigy rarely seen in 10,000 years, his name spreading throughout the 5 continents. It's just a pity that these are all things of the past. Kid, even if you're really Long Tian, do you think that just based on your reputation and deeds, you have the qualifications to have an audience with His Majesty the Dragon Emperor? Xianxia was silent and did not speak, looking at the heartless divine king with furrowed brows. The sneer on the heartless divine king's face became even more pronounced, his tone even more mocking as he said, "No, you don't have the qualifications. Even if you're Dragon Emperor Sealing Sky's disciple, it's also not enough. Kid, you should wake up. Are you still living in the past glory and honor? A divine king with your strength, the dragon realm has a dime a dozen, it's really too sloppy and common. Furthermore, that short-lived master of yours died a sudden death long ago. Without your master's name, who do you think you are?" Suddenly hearing these few sentences, Ji Tianxing's body immediately stiffened. Both eyes narrowed fiercely, his eyes flickering with an awe-inspiring cold light. "What did you say? My master, what happened to him?" Ji Tianxing's voice was very low and cold. Peng Fei was also filled with humiliation, his face flushed red with anger, both fists clenched until cracking sounds could be heard. The heartless divine king was stunned for a moment, turning his head to look at the 4 high-ranking divine kings. Immediately, the 5 people laughed loudly at the same time, all revealing mocking and disdainful expressions. "Ah, this kid's master is dead, everyone in the world knows it. Only him is still in the dark. Tiski, your acting is so good. I understand. This brat couldn't take the blow of his master's sudden death and has already lost his mind. Yes. He must be living in a dream, still immersed in the glory of the past and unable to wake up. What a pity." The few god kings laughed heartily and whispered to each other for a while. And the news they revealed was like a bolt from the blue to Ji Tianxing. He had always thought that the master who taught him attentively and devoted his life to him was still the overlord of the Sky Dragon continent, and was now enjoying his old age in the cave. Who would have thought that such a shocking change would occur? Could it be that master has really fallen? This was impossible. He is a peak divine king, born from the heavens, inheriting the ancient era's heavenly dragon king. Who can kill him? Ji Tianxing's expression was extremely ugly. His heart was filled with shock as he roared in disbelief. For a moment he was unable to accept this news. At this moment he wished he could immediately return to the Sky Dragon continent and figure out what was going on. When the heartless divine king and the 4 guards saw his appearance, they immediately laughed even more mockingly. Brat, woke up from your dream, right? It's time to face the cruel reality. Wake up, wake up. Without your master, you're nothing. Alright, everybody, don't waste time with this lunatic anymore. Brat, you successfully amused us. You can get lost now. While mocking and mocking, the 4 guards waved their battle halberds, driving Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei away in a rude and unreasonable manner. Peng Fei was humiliated to the extreme, but he could only endure silently and clench his teeth tightly, while Ji Tianxing already could not bear it anymore. "You all are bullying people too far." He glared at the heartless divine king and the rest, shouting in a low voice with a ghastly tone. The heartless divine king and the 4 guards were all stunned for a moment, then immediately laughed even more contemptuously. "Ah, did everybody see that? This brat is angry and wants to beat us up. Tisk tsk. Lowly as a dog thing also dares to hoot in front of this king? Alright, don't waste time with him. Beat him half to death and throw him out." While talking, the 4 guards took the lead to make a move, brandishing their battle halberds and using divine abilities and secret arts, attacking towards Ji Tianxing. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In a split second, a dazzling divine light lit up. 5-colored spear shadows and divine light blades enveloped Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was unable to restrain his anger. He took out the Burial of Heaven sword without the slightest hesitation and counterattacked with all his might. Kill. He gave a furious cry, surging killing intent bursting forth from all over his body. The Burial of Heaven sword in his hand slashed out 100 streaks of resplendent sword light. It was only to hear muffled bangs explode one after another. The divine light blades and spear shadows that filled the sky were immediately shattered into pieces by the sword light. The 4 guards' attacks crumbled. Unfortunately, the sword lights that filled the sky also collapsed. Both sides' first exchange seemed to be evenly matched. The 4 guards were all stunned for a moment, putting away their scornful looks one after another, treating seriously. Heh, looks like this brat still has some ability. He can actually block our combined attack. "Brat, you have the qualifications to die under our halberds." While talking, the 4 guards once again joined forces to attack. This time they put away their contempt and all exploded forth with full power, using their ultimate killing moves. Meteor Spear. Halberd annihilating starry sky. Chaotic battle of heaven and earth. Following the angry roars, the 4 high-level god kings erupted with earth-shattering auras, using their ultimate divine abilities that could destroy heaven and earth. Dazzling divine light and dazzling shadows once again enveloped the peak of heavenly Crane Mountain, drowning Ji Tianqing and Ping Fei. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing decisively used his ultimate skill, fighting back with all his might. Celestial Dragon Tyrant Body. He roared angrily, his entire body radiating golden light that soared into the sky, instantly transforming into a 300-meter-tall golden armored giant. At this moment his battle prowess skyrocketed by 7 times, and his aura also reached its peak. He held the Burial of Heaven sword with both hands, slashing out more than 300 heaven-splitting giant swords, attacking the high-level god kings around him. Boom, 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 boom. Another series of earth-shaking noises echoed in the air above the sea of clouds. Divine art light and shadows that filled the sky collided fiercely with the heaven-splitting giant swords, collapsing and shattering at the same time. The 4 high-level god kings' combined attack was resolved by Ji Tianqing once again. Immediately the 4 god kings' expressions were not too good, all somewhat humiliated and furious. In their eyes, Long Tian, who lost Dragon Emperor sealing heaven's protection, was a lunatic, a good-for-nothing. But reality proved that the 4 of them joining forces could not do anything to Long Tian either. Didn't this mean that they were inferior to even a lunatic and a good-for-nothing? The Heartless Divine King was originally watching the battle by the side. Due to his status, he did not have the intention of taking action. In his mind, finishing off a Long Tian whose strength was sloppy and ordinary, the 4 guards were enough. There was no need for him to take action at all. But the result was like this: he lost face too. He immediately roared rather angrily, "A bunch of good-for-nothings can't even deal with this good-for-nothing? This king will do it." As he said, the Heartless Divine King kneaded divine seals with both hands, displaying vast and boundless divine power, releasing more than 200 kinds of divine Dao laws, turning into a heaven-splitting axe, chopping viciously towards Ji Tianqing. Chapter 3603. For Ji Tianqing to be able to block the encirclement of 4 high divine kings, he was already doing his best. When the Heartless Divine King attacked with his full strength, he no longer had any strength left to block or resist. Boom. Amidst a deafening loud noise, the sword lights that filled the sky were hacked to pieces. Ji Tianqing's protective divine light was also split apart by the heaven-splitting axe, splashing out divine light fragments that filled the sky. The divine might that could destroy heaven and earth sent him flying, tumbling hundreds of miles away. While he was still in midair, blood was already spurting out of his nose and mouth. The middle grade king-level armor he was wearing also had a huge crack cut open, divine power leaking out crazily. With just this move, Ji Tianqing was injured by the Heartless Divine King. The might of the heaven-splitting axe was too terrifying. Just the remnant force of the attack had cleaved the peak of Sky Crane Mountain into 2 halves, causing dust to fill the sky. Following a muffled rumbling sound, more than half of Heavenly Crane Mountain collapsed on the spot, countless boulders tumbling down. Peng Fei also suffered a calamity, being hit by the aftershock, flying out with heavy injuries. Over a dozen wounds appeared all over his body. Both his arms and left leg were broken. There was even a half-foot-long wound on his chest, deep to the bone, almost injuring his heart. Falling 100 miles away, he was already covered in blood all over, in an extremely wretched state. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing blocked 90% of the power. He was only hit by the aftershock, that was why he was heavily injured. If not for so, he would have long been killed by the heaven-splitting axe, chopped into pieces on the spot. Cough cough. Peng Fei fell into the sea of clouds, his footsteps staggering as he crawled up, coughing loudly, blood spurting out of his nose and mouth continuously. His hair was disheveled, his appearance extremely wretched. But ignoring his injuries, he hurriedly searched for Ji Tianqing's figure. Seeing Ji Tianqing 20 miles to the left, his armor shattered, white robes dyed with blood, his sorry appearance, he could not help feeling grief and indignation. Damn it! Truly, when a tiger goes down to the plains, it's bullied by dogs. When a dragon swims in shallow waters, it's toyed with by shrimps. Peng Fei secretly clenched his fists, gnashing his teeth in hatred, roaring in a hoarse voice. He understood everything that had happened just now. Long Tian was originally the last disciple of Dragon Emperor Feng Tian. His status was noble and his status was extraordinary. Like the heartless divine king and the four guards, they didn't have the qualifications to be mentioned in the same breath as him at all. They had to salute respectfully when they met. However, heaven-sealing Dragon Emperor had already perished. Long Tian's status also plummeted. Following a deafening loud bang exploding, the four divine kings' divine art attacks were immediately shattered into dregs by the apocalyptic sword. Immediately after, the apocalyptic sword, whose power was weakened by 40%, hacked fiercely onto two upper-level divine kings again. Rumble. Crack. Ah. Following the loud bang and screams, the protective divine light of those two upper-level divine kings was shattered on the spot by the apocalyptic sword. Their divine bodies were also chopped into two by the apocalyptic sword, their heads separated from their bodies. Of course, their divine sparks were intact. It was just that their divine bodies were destroyed. The other two upper-level divine kings were instantly frightened until they trembled, retreating 100 miles with pale faces. And at this time, the two enormous blades that the heartless divine king slashed out ruthlessly struck Ji Tianxing. He did not have time to hide into the divine pagoda, nor did he have time to swing his sword to block before he was sent flying by the two enormous blades. Bang! Bang! With a muffled sound, Ji Tianxing tumbled and fell 300 miles away. When he charged out of the sea of clouds covered in blood, he was already in an extremely wretched state. His chest and back were caved in, his left arm was nearly chopped off, and there was a horrifying wound on his shoulder, revealing pale golden divine bone that kept gushing out divine blood. His internal organs were also shattered from the impact, and his divine power was even more chaotic. After all, the heartless divine king was a 9th-level divine king expert. Of course, his power and means were terrifying. Ji Tianxing was severely injured and his strength was greatly reduced. He only had 50% of his peak strength left. As for the heartless divine king and the two upper-level divine kings, they were still unharmed. They had personally witnessed the destruction of the other two upper-level divine kings' divine bodies. They were unable to restrain their anger and charged over even more crazily. Long Tian, hand over your life. Little bastard, your death is not to be regretted. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing could only turn and flee. Entering the Xuanji Grotto heaven and meeting the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor had to be planned at length. Today's grudge could only be avenged another day. Swish. Seeing the heartless divine king and the two upper-level divine kings charging over with murderous intent, Ji Tianxing did not hesitate to teleport thousands of miles away from Sky Crane Mountain. Boom. 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 The attacks of the heartless divine king and the two upper-level divine kings all missed. The sky was filled with divine art radiance and sharp blades that slashed across the sea of clouds, mountains and rivers. There was a deafening explosion. In the blink of an eye, the mountains and rivers within a few thousand miles were flattened, filling the sky with smoke and dust. Ji Tianxing did not stop. He used all his strength to teleport and flew towards the north. Unfortunately, the heartless divine king was faster than him. In a few breaths he caught up with him. Die! The heartless divine king roared. He held a king-grade upper-level divine saber with both hands and slashed down. He was swallowed up by the void storm and will definitely be torn to shreds by the void storm, dying without a burial place. Even if he is lucky enough to survive, he will be stranded in the endless void. It is no different from being dead. As the two high-level god kings discussed, they put away their swords and halberds. Their fighting spirit quickly dissipated. That brat got lucky. Divine King Wu Exen snorted coldly. He put away his divine saber with a cold expression and calmed the surging divine power in his body. A moment later, the deafening noise that resounded through the heavens and the divine light that covered the sky gradually dissipated. Under the power of the heavenly Tao laws, The shattered sky gradually recovered to its original state. Everything returned to normal as if nothing had happened. Only then did the heartless divine king lead the two high-level god kings and turn to leave, rushing back to Sky Crane Mountain. When the three of them returned to the entrance of Xuanji Grotto Heaven, the two high-level god kings who were chopped in two were currently groaning in pain and taking divine pills to heal their injuries. The other two high-level god kings who were not injured looked at the heartless divine king and asked, "Chief Steward, should we report this matter to His Majesty the Dragon Emperor?" In order to guard the entrance, the two of them had their divine bodies destroyed by evil thieves. We should more or less give some compensation and rewards, right? The heartless divine king glanced at the two of them and said expressionlessly, "You guys have performed a meritorious service. The rewards that should be given will naturally be given. As for reporting to His Majesty the Dragon Emperor, that is unnecessary. How can we disturb His Majesty the Dragon Emperor for such a small matter?" The two high-level god kings also knew that His Majesty the Dragon Emperor was cultivating in seclusion, trying his best to break through to a higher realm. Such an important seclusion definitely could not be disturbed. Clear Sky region was located in the northwest of Starsource continent. This place was a total of 8 regions away from the Divine Star region where Xuanji Grotto Heaven was located. It was currently noon. The scorching sun hung high in the sky, and the world was filled with a scorching aura. Dark Moon Mountain Range in the center of Clear Sky region, under the illumination of the scorching sun, emitted a strong aura of green wood. Faint green clouds rose in the mountain range. Dark Moon Mountain Range was filled with undulating mountain ranges and covered with dark green primeval forests. This place was deserted, but it was filled with divine power. Countless natural treasures grew here, and it was a paradise for billions of demonic beasts. Ordinary people could only move around the periphery of Dark Moon Mountain Range, exploring and searching for treasures. Only experts and powerhouses above Divine Lord Realm dared to enter the depths of the mountain range to search for precious herbs, spirit beasts and treasures. Right at this moment the blue sky suddenly shattered and a huge black hole exploded. Boom. Following a loud crisp explosion, a black shadow that was 100 feet long flew out of the black hole, falling from the sky and smashing into a mountain peak. Boom. That black shadow carried a terrifying impact force, collapsing 1,000 feet of mountain peak on the spot, sending dust flying into the sky. The deafening loud noise reverberated endlessly in the mountain range. Violent shockwaves spread out in all directions, turning the 3,000 miles of forest into ruins. Such an astonishing commotion scared the birds and beasts in the surrounding 20,000 miles until they were scared out of their wits, fleeing in a sorry state. After a long time the smoke and dust in the sky dispersed. Only then could one see a mysterious tower that was pitch black like ink lying in the yellow soil ruins. The divine tower had 9 levels. It was simple and unadorned, flickering with a faint black light. It lay quietly in the ruins, half of it sunk into the soil. After a long time it still did not move an inch. About 7 minutes later the divine tower still did not move. But at this time 4 beams of divine light flew over from the sky, arriving above the ruins as fast as lightning. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 4 beams of divine light stopped above the ruins. The divine light converged, revealing the silhouettes of 4 demonic beasts. These 4 demonic beasts' appearances were very similar. They were all tall and bloated and their mouths were abnormally big, looking somewhat ugly. Among them there were 3 men and 1 woman. The 2 middle-aged men in the lead were both low-ranked divine kings. These 2 people were both wearing black-bottomed blood-patterned armor, their entire bodies emitting a brutal aura. The other 2 youths, 1 woman and 1 man, were both high-ranked Divine Lord Realm Strength. They were all wearing fiery red armor, their attitudes respectful toward the 2 black-armored men. They should be disciples or juniors. The 4 people stood in the sky, overlooking the ruins below, their eyes searching all around. Looking at the direction of the commotion just now, it should be here. Strange, just what kind of thing fell from the sky to actually cause such a huge commotion? Could it be a rare treasure that fell from the sky? Then we're really too lucky. Everyone quickly look. There seems to be a pagoda in the ruins. The young woman shouted. The other 3 people's eyes immediately lit up, revealing excited and greedy looks. Chapter 3605. There's indeed a pagoda. It's a black pagoda. It's filled with divine energy and looks mysterious. Haha. God is really looking after us. We can't believe we've encountered a treasure from the heavens. The other three followed the young lady's gaze and saw a black pagoda among the ruins. Suddenly, the three of them were so excited that their blood was boiling. They had not gotten close to the pagoda and had not examined it carefully to identify its grade. However, all they could think about was the words treasure from the heavens. They thought that a gift from the heavens could not possibly be a defective item. It must be a rare legendary item. Stop daydreaming. Let's go take a look. Yes, let's see what grade the pagoda is. The two men in black armor took the lead and landed in the ruins beside the pagoda. The two young men quickly followed and surrounded the black pagoda, looking at it with shining eyes. What a mysterious and reserved aura. This is definitely not an ordinary item. This pagoda is not only mysterious but also ancient. It has at least 20 to 30,000 years of history. Could this be a legendary item from the ancient times? Based on my experience and knowledge, this pagoda is at least an upper king grade treasure. We're rich now. An upper king grade pagoda. The four of them were excited and emotional. The greed and excitement in the eyes of the two men in black armor in particular was beyond words. As for the two young men in the divine sovereign realm, they knew that they were not qualified to get their hands on the pagoda. However, they knew that after the two deacons got their hands on the pagoda, they would definitely benefit greatly. With the help of the two deacons, their status in the clan would rise and they would be able to get all sorts of benefits. Thinking of this, the two young men's regret faded a lot. Wang Chuan, are you sure this pagoda is an upper king grade treasure? The deacon on the left looked at the man in black armor on the right and asked. The man in black armor, who was called Wang Chuan, patted his chest confidently and said, Captain, don't forget that I'm also good at refining weapons. I know the quality of legendary items very well. When I said that this pagoda is an upper king grade treasure, it was just a conservative estimate. The deacon's eyes widened and he exclaimed in shock, What? Was it at least a king level upper grade? Are you saying that this divine pagoda might be a supreme king level artifact? Wang Chuan nodded with a smile. Of course there is such a possibility. Once we refine it and return to the star-devouring paradise to study it, we will know the answer. The manager rubbed his hands together excitedly and said impatiently, Then what are we waiting for? Let's put it away quickly lest something unexpected happens. Just now when the divine pagoda descended, it caused a huge commotion. Could be seen from tens of thousands of miles away. If other experts find out about this, it'll cause more trouble. As he spoke, Deacon Changji extended his three ugly claws and shot out a dark red bloody light. It wrapped around the pitch-black divine pagoda and was about to put it away. However, the godly tower was embedded into the ground. No matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't budge. Look at you. You can't even lift a pagoda? The river of forgetfulness sneered in disdain, and also extended three claws, releasing a vast blood-red light, wanting to lift up the divine tower. Sadly, the tower remained as steady as Mount Tai and did not react. Wang Chuan was instantly embarrassed and Changji mocked him mercilessly. The two young Sir Gods held back their laughter and their expressions were mocking. This king doesn't believe it. Come, let's lift it together. Wang Chuan suppressed his anger and called for Changji to help him. The two of them used their capturing ability, and the bloody light condensed into a giant beast claw. They grabbed the pitch-black divine tower tightly and tried to lift it up. The awkward situation repeated itself. The pitch-black divine tower still did not budge. Wang Chuan and Changji frowned at the same time. While their expressions were awkward, they also revealed a puzzled look. What's going on? No matter how high the grade of this divine tower is, it's impossible for us to not be able to lift it. I've already checked. There's no ceiling array here and there's no force restraining it? Could it be that this divine tower is not without an owner, and some expert has already refined it? Just as the two of them were frowning and deep in thought, the pitch-black divine tower suddenly disappeared. Zhoosh! With a flash of divine light, a dragon youth in a white robe and covered in blood suddenly appeared in the ruins. Changji, Wang Chuan and the two young Sir Gods were shocked. The four of them subconsciously drew their swords and sabers. They looked at the dragon youth warily, ready to attack at any time. Without a doubt, This blood-stained youth from the dragon clan with disheveled hair was none other than Zhi Tianxing. When the four Fae were sizing him up warily, he was also sizing up the crowd and the surrounding situation. His eyes were a little dazed and relieved. Wasn't the divine tower struck into the void by the heartless divine king? Why would I appear here? What are these four Fae trying to do? They look so ugly. From their outer appearance they seem to be from the Taotai race. Zhi Tianxing frowned as many thoughts flashed through his mind. Both sides faced each other, maintaining silence and vigilance. Moments later, Zhi Tianxing was the first to speak. He asked, "Everyone, where is this place?" Changji and Wang Chuan did not answer. Instead, they looked at each other and saw a strange look in each other's eyes. The next moment, the two of them reached a consensus and put away their swords. "This, young master, may I know how to address you?" Changji looked at Zhi Tianxing with a smile. He bowed kindly and greeted him. Wang Chuan glared at the two youths and scolded with a stern expression. "What are the two of you standing there for? Put away your weapons." "But, yes." The two youths were stunned for a moment and quickly put away their swords. Seeing that the other party was not hostile and had a gentle and kind attitude, Zhi Tianxing said, "I am Long Tian. May I know how to address you? Where is this place?" Wang Chuan quickly cupped his hands and bowed to him. He smiled and said, "So it is Long Tian, young master Long, nice to meet you. I am Deacon Tao Wang Chuan of Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven. This is my elder brother, also a deacon. His name is Tao Changji." After saying that, he pointed to the two youths and said, "These two little fellows are the juniors of my clan. Let's not talk about them." Zhi Tianxing nodded slightly. His expression did not change, but he thought to himself, "Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven? It is indeed the Taotai clan." The Taotai clan was one of the 7 great demon clans. Only the descendants of the 7 great demon clans' bloodline were qualified to occupy a Grotto Heaven. Other than that, only the top bloodlines of the Dragon, Phoenix, Qilin, and the top forces of each continent, such as the Dragon Emperor, could occupy a Grotto Heaven. At this moment, Tao Changji cupped his hands and bowed to Zhi Tianxing. He smiled warmly and introduced, "Young Master Long, this is Clear Sky Region's Crescent Moon Mountain Range. The two of us brought 2 juniors out to do some business. When we passed by, we happened to see a divine item descending from the sky. We rushed over to check the situation. I did not expect to meet young Master Long in this way. We are really fated." Chapter 3606. The two sides exchanged a few words and got to know each other. The two brothers, Tao Changji and Tao Wangchuan, were quite enthusiastic towards Zhi Tianxing. There was even a hint of respect and flattery. Zhi Tianxing understood and did not find it strange. After all, he was now a noble member of the Dragon Clan. It was normal for any demon clan to fawn on him. "Young Master Dragon, although it's not convenient for us to ask about what happened to you before. But seeing that you fell from the sky and are covered in blood, you must have been seriously injured. If young Master Dragon doesn't mind, please do us the honor and come back to the Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven as a guest." Tao Changji looked at Zhi Tianxing eagerly and said in a sincere tone. Tao Wangchuan also quickly nodded and echoed, "Yes. Young Master Dragon is seriously injured and is not suitable for traveling. Why don't you go to the Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven as a guest and heal your injuries in peace? Our people are the most hospitable and we especially admire and like the Dragon Clan. We will definitely treat young Master Dragon warmly." As soon as these words came out, the 2 young disciples also quickly nodded in agreement. They even bowed and invited Zhi Tianxing to be a guest. Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven. Zhi Tianxing frowned slightly and thought to himself, although the Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven did not have a good reputation in the Dragon Realm. However, there is a special herb called the Star-Devouring Flower that can only grow in the Star-Devouring Grotto Heaven. If I can get a Star-Devouring Flower, I can recover from my injuries in just a few months. Otherwise, I will need at least 7 or 8 years to recover to my peak. Thinking of this, Zhi Tianxing nodded and said with a smile, "If I refuse your kind invitation, I will not be giving face to the Taotai clan. Since that's the case, I'll accept your offer." Seeing Zhi Tianxing finally nodding, Tao Changji and Tao Wangchuan were pleasantly surprised and thanked him with a smile. "But, young Master Dragon is too kind. If the clan leader sees you, he will be very happy." Since ancient times, our star-devouring grotto heaven has been on good terms with the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan has always been our honored guest. It is our honor that young Master Long is willing to visit the star-devouring paradise as a guest. Thank you very much. Tao Chongji and Tao Wangchuan's enthusiastic reactions made the atmosphere very harmonious. A moment later, Tao Wangchuan took the initiative to bring out a scarlet divine ship with a ferocious appearance and brought everyone aboard. Shua. Blood-red divine light flashed as the divine ship carried everyone into the sky and sped towards the north. Within the divine vessel, Tao Wangchuan was in charge of steering the divine vessel. Tao Zhangji and two other young men accompanied Ji Tianxing as they drank tea and chatted in the living room. While they were talking, Tao Chongji indirectly asked Ji Tianxing what had happened to him and why he was in such a sorry state. It was inconvenient for Ji Tianxing to answer, so he made up a lie and evaded it naturally. Then the two young men asked Ji Tianxing many questions about the Dragon Clan, showing their curiosity and respect for the Dragon Clan. Ji Tianxing chose a few questions to answer and solved the doubts of the two young men, causing them to repeatedly thank him. After chatting for a few minutes, they had nothing else to talk about. Tao Zhangji hurriedly said, "Young Master Long, this place is not far from the star-devouring paradise. We can reach it in about a day. You go to the secret chamber to recuperate first. We won't disturb you. When we reach the star-devouring paradise, I'll call you again. How about it?" Ji Tianxing naturally nodded in agreement and thanked him. Then, under Tao Zhangji's lead, he entered a secret chamber. After closing the door of the secret chamber, he took out the divine pagoda and entered the fourth level of the divine pagoda to check on Peng Fei's condition. He found Peng Fei in the middle of the vast sea. Peng Fei was sitting cross-legged in the air above the sea, absorbing the divine power of heaven and earth and taking divine pills to recuperate. His injuries were very serious and it would be difficult for him to recover without 8 to 10 years. Ji Tianxing checked on his injuries and delayed for an hour to cast a spell to heal him. In this way, Peng Fei's injuries quickly recovered, and he would be fully recovered in 3 to 5 years. Ji Tianxing left him a few divine fruits before leaving the fourth level. Swoosh. Not long after, he returned to the distorted space-time and sat cross-legged under the bloody flame sacred tree to recuperate. His injuries were also very serious and his strength was reduced to about 50%. Although his recovery ability was very strong, and he had many divine pills and resources to heal his injuries quickly. Even so, he would need 3 to 4 years to fully recover. This time I went to the Xuanji Grotto Heaven. Not only did I not see the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, but I was also severely injured. I didn't expect the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's lackey to be so fierce and domineering. Heartless Divine King, I'll remember this. The next time we meet, I'll definitely take your life. Master He. After I recover, I'll make a trip back to the Sky Dragon continent to see if anything happened to Master. Ji Tianxing muttered to himself, hatred and worry flashing in his eyes. After a while, he collected his thoughts and took divine pills and divine fruits to recuperate. At the same time, after Tao Chongji had settled Ji Tianxing down, he returned to the living room. Two young men from the Taotai tribe quickly came up to him and asked, "Deacon Chongji, are we really going to bring that guy back to the star-devouring grotto heaven?" Deacon Chongji, does that guy really have the dragon tribe's bloodline? Tao Chongji looked at the two young men and said with a smile, "Of course he has the dragon tribe's bloodline. Who else can pretend to be a dragon tribe member? The dragon tribe is the most elite and rare bloodline. We, the Taotai tribe, have always been hospitable and we like these elite bloodlines. It's not easy to meet an injured dragon tribe member. How can we miss this opportunity?" When the two young men from the Taotai tribe heard this, they vaguely understood what he meant and smiled playfully. That's right. Not only does that guy have the elite dragon tribe bloodline, but he also has a powerful divine pagoda. How can we miss such an honorable person? Hee. It's not easy to entertain him outside. Of course, we have to invite him to the star-devouring grotto heaven. When the time comes, the tribe leader and a few elders will definitely treat him well. Tao Chongji nodded with a gratified expression and said, "The two of you have to keep it a secret for now and don't reveal any flaws. Deacon Wangchuan and I will take care of this matter. When it's done in the future, there will be benefits and rewards for both of you. When Deacon Wangchuan and I become rich, we will definitely help both of you. Do you understand?" The two young men from the Taotai tribe immediately smiled and nodded to show that they understood. After getting Tao Changji's assurance, the two of them left with peace of mind and returned to the secret chamber to cultivate. Tao Changji hurried to the cockpit of the divine warship and secretly discussed the plan with Tao Wangchuan. The two of them stayed in the cockpit and secretly communicated with each other for a long time before they decided on the next plan. Time passed silently and a day passed unknowingly. At noon on the second day, the divine warship finally arrived at the star-devouring grotto heaven after crossing mountains and rivers. Chapter 3607. The star-devouring grotto heaven was an alternate dimension attached to the dragon realm. Its entrance was at the bottom of a cliff, in a dark abyss shrouded in clouds and mist. Zhou. The divine warship entered the dark abyss and arrived at the entrance of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Tao Wangchuan took out a token and cast dozens of divine lights to activate the defensive array at the entrance. Following a flash of divine light, a blazing white spatial gate that was hundreds of meters tall appeared in the darkness. The divine warship passed through the spatial gate and returned to the star-devouring grotto heaven. The star-devouring grotto heaven was different from the other grotto heavens. It was very special. The other grotto heavens often had a radius of 1,000,000 miles. They also had a sun and a moon forming a world of their own. Inside the grotto heaven, day and night alternated, and the sun and moon rose and set. The star-devouring grotto heaven was only 200,000 miles wide. It was like a huge crystal ball, suspended in the dark starry sky. Looking down through the thick and transparent spatial barrier, one could see the dazzling dragon realm. It was a super-huge golden star that was even more dazzling than the sun. If the dragon realm was compared to a mountain, then the star-devouring grotto heaven was a speck of dust, extremely small. Looking up, one could see the boundless starry sky. In the dark, starry sky, there were countless specks of starlight, shining with a cold light. Therefore, the star-devouring grotto heaven did not alternate day and night, nor did the sun and moon rise and set. The scene here was unchanged. It was always the dazzling golden light under one's feet, and the starry sky above one's head, shining with a cold silver light. The special environment created the special force field of the star-devouring grotto heaven. This grotto heaven had absorbed the essence of the stars over the years, devouring the power of billions of stars, causing the grotto heaven to be filled with rich star power. Whether it was on the ground or in the sky, there were specks of silver light floating like billions of fireflies. Those were all specks of light condensed from the star power, and they were very beneficial to cultivators. In addition, the star-devouring grotto heaven was mostly barren mountains and deserts. At a glance, it was desolate, with rocks, gravel and barren mountains everywhere. There were very few plants here, but there were countless metal veins and divine stones. On the ground under his feet, in the desert and the barren mountains far away, he could see colorful divine stones, ores and star crystals if he dug a few feet deep. If a race that was good at refining ores and refining divine artifacts occupied this star-devouring paradise, they would definitely be able to refine countless high-grade divine artifacts. Seeing the return of the divine battleship, four guards wearing dark red armor immediately flew out of the palace to welcome the divine battleship. Shua. With a flash of light, Tao Wangchuan put away the divine battleship. Everyone immediately appeared on the wasteland and stood at the entrance of the palace. The two at the front were Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji stood at the side, looking like they were accompanying them. The two young men of the Taotai clan followed behind the four of them. They stood quietly and didn't say much. "Welcome back, Lord Deacons." The four red-armored guards hurriedly bowed in salute and welcomed Ji Tianxing, Tao Wangchuan and the rest into the palace. After entering the palace, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji exchanged a few pleasantries with Ji Tianxing and briefly introduced the situation of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Of course, the two sized up Peng Fei a few times and also asked Ji Tianxing about Peng Fei's identity and background. Ji Tianxing just said casually. Peng Fei was his personal guard. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji nodded with a smile and did not say anything. Then the two arranged living quarters and secret rooms for Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei respectively. "Young Master Long, you all rest here for a while first. We just returned and still have to report the situation to the Patriarch and elders." You all don't need to be restrained. Just treat this place as your own home. If you need anything, feel free to instruct the guards. Alright, then we won't disturb your rest. Soon Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji let everyone in left. Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei stood at the entrance of the 2 secret rooms, watching everyone leave. Peng Fei, it's good enough for you to stay in the Divine Pagoda to recuperate. Why stay here? Originally, Ji Tianxing did not think of bringing Peng Fei along. However, Peng Fei knew that he had entered the star-devouring grotto heaven and did not circulate his energy to recuperate. No matter what, he wanted to follow him. Peng Fei's mood was somewhat excited as he said with a face full of smiles, "Senior, I originally followed you to increase my experience and knowledge. This star-devouring grotto heaven and Tao Tai clan, I've only heard of it before and have never seen it with my own eyes. Now that we're lucky enough to be here, how can I miss this opportunity? I heard that the star-devouring grotto heaven is very mysterious. When we settle down, we must take a good look." Chapter 3608. Peng Fei showed great interest in the star-devouring paradise. If it wasn't for the fact that he had just arrived and didn't have the Tao Tai clan's permission, it wouldn't be convenient for him to wander around. He had long since been unable to restrain his excitement and had spread his wings and run wildly through the star-devouring paradise. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, was more indifferent. His expression was calm. However, he was also interested in the star-devouring paradise and the Tao Tai clan. However, he was more interested in the star-devouring flower, followed by the mineral veins and divine stones. As for the Tao Tai clan, they were instead ranked at the back. Alright, don't think too much about it. Let's focus on recuperating first. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji had to report to the Tao Tai clan's patriarch. Not long after, the Tao Tai clan would hold a banquet to welcome us. It won't be too late for us to visit the star-devouring paradise after we meet them and get their approval. Ji Tianxing patted Peng Fei's shoulder, helping him suppress his excitement and joy. After that, the 2 of them entered their respective secret chambers to recuperate. Their injuries were quite serious, and it would be difficult for them to recover in a short time. The star-devouring heavenly abode was relatively calm. Recuperating here would not be disturbed. Ji Tianxing couldn't make up his mind for the time being about how long he should stay here and whether he should wait until his injuries were healed before leaving. Everything still depended on the Tao Tai clan's reaction before making a decision. After Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji left the palace, they rushed to a certain palace in the innermost circle. Although the 2 of them had told Ji Tianxing that they were going to report the news to the patriarch, Ji Tianxing didn't know what to do. But in reality, they knew that the patriarch was cultivating in seclusion, so they didn't even think of reporting to the patriarch and the high priest. Not long after, the 2 of them entered a palace called Rong Exan. The Tao Tai clan all knew that this was 3rd Elder Tao Rong Xian's residence. In a dimly lit secret room, Tao Rongxin, who was dressed in a purple robe and had a head full of crimson-red hair, was lying in the middle of a divine formation and cultivating. The Tao Tai clan's cultivation method was very special. They didn't meditate like the other demon clans. Instead, they cultivated while lying down. It was more convenient for them to absorb the divine power of heaven and earth. Of course, the fastest way for the Tao Tai clan to increase their strength was to use their innate ability, devouring. Devouring all kinds of cultivation resources, rare natural treasures, powerful bloodlines and treasures, and so on. Greetings, 3rd Elder. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji entered the secret chamber and stood side by side, bowing to the 3rd Elder. The 3rd Elder temporarily stopped his cultivation. He opened his dark red eyes and glanced at the 2 of them. "Have you finished the task I assigned to you?" the 3rd Elder asked in an indifferent tone. Tao Zhangji hurriedly replied, reporting to 3rd Elder, "It's already done. Moreover, it's done in secret. All the survivors in that ancient town have been killed, and the news will definitely not spread out. No one will be able to guess that we did it." The 3rd Elder nodded slightly and said in a dignified tone, "Remember, in the future you must be careful and meticulous when doing things. You must not leave behind any future troubles or weaknesses that can be used against you." Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji hurriedly bowed and saluted, saying in unison, "We will follow 3rd Elder's teachings." The 3rd Elder closed his eyes and waved his sharp claws. "If there's nothing else, you may leave." Tao Wangchuan hurriedly stepped forward and said in a low voice, "Third Elder, we still have a piece of good news to tell you." The third elder's interest was immediately piqued. He looked at him with shining eyes and asked, "What good news? Tell me about it." Tao Wangchuan revealed a face full of smiles and said in a playful tone, "When we finished our task and returned to the star-devouring paradise, we encountered a strange treasure that fell from the sky in the Crescent Moon Mountain range. At that time, a pitch-black divine pagoda fell from the sky and smashed into the mountain range, turning the surrounding thousands of miles into ruins. We hurriedly rushed over to check and found that mysterious black pagoda. Not only was its grade very high, its origin was also very mysterious. Based on this disciple's experience, a conservative estimate of that divine pagoda was also a high-grade king grade. The two of us joined hands, but we were unable to move it. Suddenly, the divine pagoda disappeared and a young man from the dragon clan appeared. Tao Zhangji timely took over the topic and introduced. That young man from the dragon clan was also a god king expert. He seemed to be a middle-level god king. We were not his match. However, he suffered heavy injuries and is now in a weak state. He also brought along a bodyguard with him. That was a young man from the great golden-winged rock clan. He was an 8th-level god monarch. After listening to the two's report, the third elder's eyes immediately lit up. His eyes were bloodthirsty as he licked the corner of his mouth. "Ah, it is indeed good news. The two of you are so lucky that you could even encounter such a thing. What about that young man from the dragon clan and the golden rock? Did you capture them back?" Tao Wangchuan hurriedly explained, "That young man from the dragon clan has a mysterious origin. He is very powerful and also has the mysterious black pagoda. He is definitely not someone to be trifled with. The two of us did not dare to act rashly and alert the enemy." Chapter 3609. Peng Fei was not on guard at all. After entering the secret chamber, he focused on healing his injuries. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, was different. He was more cautious. 1,000 years ago, when he was in the Dragon Realm, he had never come into contact with the Taotai clan, but he had heard discussions about the Taotai clan. In general, the Taotai clan's reputation was not too good. Greed, cunning, and tyranny were synonymous with the Taotai clan. Although Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji were very friendly, warm, and respectful to him, he did not believe them. He did not completely trust these two people. Especially after entering the star-devouring grotto heaven, he vaguely felt that the Taotai clan's atmosphere was a little uncomfortable. This kind of discomfort, he could not pinpoint the specific reason, but there were always some clues. For example, those two Taotai clan youths and the 4 guards of the Forgotten River Palace, their gazes were a little strange. Although he could not pinpoint what was strange, he kept feeling that those 6 people were not as warm as Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji. Moreover, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji's warmth and friendliness could also be faked. With such thoughts, Ji Tianxing healed his injuries in the distorted spacetime for a few days, then exited the distorted spacetime. Swoosh. He returned to the dimly lit secret chamber and released his divine sense to extend outwards, secretly observing the situation of the Forgotten River Palace and the entire Taotai clan. Although the secret chamber was set up with a divine array that could isolate sound, divine power waves, and prevent divine sense from probing, the divine array's grade was not very high. However, the grade of the divine array was not high. To Ji Tianxing, it was useless. He quickly saw the situation of the Forgotten River Palace clearly and instantly frowned, revealing a puzzled expression. Those 4 guards in red armor were guarding outside his and Peng Fei's secret chamber. In addition, there were 8 more Divine Lord Realm guards inside and outside the Forgotten River Palace, all vigilantly guarding the various important passages. There were originally only 4 guards in the palace. Why are there 8 more guards? What is Tao Wangchuan doing? It shouldn't be to protect us, right? Could it be to monitor and put us under house arrest? Ji Tianxing became suspicious and decided to test it out later. He released his divine sense again, extending it in all directions, secretly probing a radius of 10,000 miles. Almost all the members of the Taotai clan lived in the barren desert within 10,000 miles. There were more than 600 palaces and residences in this area, and more than 6,000 people lived there. All of them were from the Taotai race. Of course, the vast majority of the Taotai clansmen were in the outer circle, and they only had the strength of true gods and celestial deities. Ji Tianxing realized that the situation was not right, so he secretly sent a voice transmission to Peng Fei, asking him to test it out. Peng Fei did not understand the situation, so he hurriedly ended his cultivation and tried to leave the secret chamber to take a walk outside. In the end, he was also stopped by the two guards guarding the secret chamber's entrance and was persuaded to go back. Peng Fei was full of gloominess and secretly sent a voice transmission to ask Ji Tianxing what was going on here. Ji Tianxing did not say anything. He just urged him not to think too much and continue revolving his energy to heal his injuries. He secretly released his divine sense again to investigate the Taotai clan's situation. At the same time, his divine sense searched everywhere for traces of Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji. He wanted to see what on earth those two fellows were doing. Did they report the situation to the Taotai clan leader? As a result, after 15 minutes, he indeed found traces of Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji. Those two fellows walked out of a palace called Rong Exin, a satisfied smile hanging on their faces. The two people were talking and laughing along the way. Clearly, their moods were excellent, as if they were looking forward to something very much. But the two of them were communicating via voice transmission in secret. Ji Tianxing could not detect what the two of them were talking about either. After leaving the Rong Exin palace, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji returned to their respective residences, and there was no more news. Tao Wangchuan returned to the Wangchuan palace and did not come to disturb Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei. Instead, he inquired about the situation from the guards. Knowing that Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei both attempted to go out but were stopped by the guards, Tao Wangchuan furrowed his brows, a hint of doubt flashing across his eyes. Although he did not say anything, his subtle expression changes were all seen by Ji Tianxing. After a moment, Tao Wangchuan gave a few instructions to the guards and returned to his room to rest. Ji Tianxing also withdrew his divine sense and no longer probed the situation outside. He hurriedly entered the 9 heavens 10 absolute pagoda's distorted spacetime and started revolving his energy to heal his injuries. Looking at the current situation, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji's kindness and enthusiasm are all faked. They are most likely plotting something sinister, wanting to make a move against me and Peng Fei. We can't sit and wait for death. We must immediately think of ways to treat our injuries and recover our strength. These thoughts flashed across Ji Tianxing's mind, his expression and gaze both somewhat solemn. He hurriedly took out several dozen divine fruits, king-level divine pills as well as source stones piled up like a mountain, and started revolving his energy to devour and refine. Chapter 36:10. If it was in the past, Ji Tianxing would have to cultivate in seclusion for at least a few decades to consume so many divine fruits, divine pills and origin stones. The value of these things added up to more than 10 billion. But now Ji Tianxing had to consume and refine all of them in just a few days. Not to increase his strength, but to recover his injuries and strength as soon as possible. Because he knew that he did not have much time left. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji would definitely take action in a few days or a few hours. Even if he could stall for time, it would only be a day or two. Fortunately, he had the Jutian 10 Absolutes Tower. The flow of time in the distorted space was 50 times faster than the outside world. If he could stall for a day, he could cultivate in seclusion in the distorted space for 50 days. Thinking of this, he still had a high chance of recovering his injuries and strength. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged under the blood-flamed sacred tree. He activated the power of the heaven-mending orb with both hands and shot out 2 white light vortexes. The hundreds of divine fruits and king-grade divine pills in front of him were instantly swallowed by the 2 white light vortexes. They turned into endless divine power and entered his body. With the help of the heaven-mending orb, the vast divine power and medicinal power filled his limbs and bones, violently washing over his divine body. Healing was a long and gentle process. It had to be as silent as the spring rain. Only in this way could his injuries be healed and not damage his divine path foundation. For someone like Ji Tianxing, who healed his injuries so quickly and violently, it would cause great damage to his body. Although his injuries were quickly healing, they were being repaired by divine power and medicinal power. But he was enduring great pain at all times. It was also a great test of his willpower. If it were an ordinary divine king, he would have been unable to bear it. However, Ji Tianxing clenched his teeth and persisted without saying a word. Time passed quietly. His face was pale and his body swelled as if there were countless pearls rolling in his flesh. The indescribable pain made him break out in a cold sweat. His hair and white robe were soaked. As day after day passed, his internal and external injuries were quickly healed. After the external injuries, bones and meridians recovered, the internal organs also began to heal. 10 days later, the injuries to Huang Xiaolong's 5 viscera and 6 bowels were completely healed. His godhead started to recover under the cleansing of god force and medicinal efficacies. At this moment, the 2 white vortexes in Ji Tianxing's palms began to devour the mountainous pile of origin stones. In just 5 days he had devoured a total of 8 million origin stones. His divine soul had recovered by 80%, and his godhead was in perfect condition. He did not continue to heal himself. Instead, he refined the remaining divine power to recover his strength. 50%, 60%, 70%. 25 days later, the energy of the divine fruits, divine pills and dawn stones were all used up. Ji Tianxing had also recovered 80% of his strength. At this moment he seemed to have fully recovered and looked no different from when he was at his peak. At the very least, no one could tell that he was injured. Originally, Ji Tianxing wanted to continue devouring cultivation resources to restore his power to 100%. Unfortunately, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji did not give him this chance. Ji Tianxing had been recuperating in the distorted spacetime for 25 days, but only half a day had passed in the outside world. In other words, it would take 12 hours. Of course, the star-devouring grotto heaven was always the same. There was no distinction between day and night. Under normal circumstances, this was actually just a night's time. Thump, thump, thump. The secret chamber's stone door was knocked until it trembled, emitting a dull sound. Clearly, someone was knocking on the door of the secret chamber. After more than 10 dull sounds, seeing that there was no response from the secret chamber and that Ji Tianxing had not appeared, the person outside the door shouted, "Young Master Long, quickly come out. We have something important to tell you." Ji Tianxing was awakened. He had no choice but to leave the distorted space-time and return to the secret chamber. Then he put away the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda and opened the secret chamber's door. What he saw was Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji. On both sides of the secret chamber's door were 2 guards in red armor. Behind Tao Wangchuan, Peng Fei was frowning and standing expressionlessly. Clearly he was first awakened by Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji. "What's the matter?" Ji Tianxing looked at Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji and asked with a displeased expression. Since he guessed that the other party had ulterior motives, he did not have a good expression. But Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji still pretended to be warm and hospitable, with kind smiles on their faces. "Young Master Long, you have also rested for a day. Yesterday we reported this matter to the elders in the clan. The 2 elders have expressed their welcome for your arrival and have already come to Wangchuan Palace to personally visit you." Tao Wangchuan explained with a face full of smiles. Ji Tianxing frowned and asked knowingly, "Didn't you say yesterday that you were going to report the situation to the clan leader?" Tao Changji hurriedly explained, "Sigh. Unfortunately we came back at the wrong time. The clan leader is cultivating in seclusion, and it is inconvenient for us to disturb. But don't worry, young Master Long, it is the same for the 2 elders to receive you. When the clan leader comes out of seclusion, we will definitely report at the first moment." Chapter 36:11. The 2 elders' attitudes were very strange. There was no respect or politeness that should be shown to a distinguished guest. They didn't even bother to greet him. They didn't even have the intention to get up from their chairs. Just like that, he sized up Ji Tianxing with a burning gaze, commenting on him from head to toe. It was as if they were evaluating goods. This kind of feeling made people feel very uncomfortable, even disgusted. Ji Tianxing didn't open his mouth to speak. He was secretly observing the 2 elders' strength, as well as checking the situation of Wangchuan Palace's defenses. He was already calculating in his mind how he could gain the upper hand in the fight later. Peng Fei couldn't hold back his anger. He glared at the 2 elders and asked in a resentful tone. Previously, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji said that the Taotai clan is the most hospitable. I didn't expect that this is how you treat distinguished guests. The 2 elders were stunned, as if they didn't expect Peng Fei to be so daring. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji instantly frowned. The smiles on their faces disappeared. They looked at Peng Fei with gloomy eyes. The corners of their mouths curled into a mocking sneer. They were about to say something to mock him. At this time, fourth elder Tao Yuxing took the initiative to ask Ji Tianxing, "Little guy, I heard that your previous self was seriously injured and stayed in a divine pagoda. You fell from the sky and landed in Dark Moon Mountain Range. What is going on? Who beat you up so badly? Where did you come from?" Ji Tianxing looked askance at him. He sneered in a mocking tone. "What? Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji didn't report to you in detail about this prince's situation? You're asking this now because you want to find out about this prince's origins and background. Are you considering whether or not you'll be retaliated against?" Tao Yuxing's expression instantly stiffened. His eyes were sharp and he asked in an icy tone, "Little guy, what do you mean?" Ji Tianxing sneered, "All right, don't pretend to be confused. Everyone is well aware of what you want to do. Since you're already prepared to make your move, what are you still being long-winded for?" Suddenly hearing this, not only were the two elders shocked, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji were also stunned. How did he know? We've always performed impeccably and didn't reveal any flaws? The two of them looked at each other in shock and confusion. As for the two elders, they quickly regained their senses. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, the two of them did not need to pretend anymore. They might as well reveal their true colors. "Hehehe. Kid, I thought I could deceive you and let you die without knowing anything. I didn't expect that we would underestimate you and be discovered by you in advance. However, even if you see through our scheme, it's useless. You've already fallen into a tight encirclement and can't escape even if you have wings." Third elder Tao Rongxin stood up and said with a cold smile. After saying that, he even clapped his hands. Immediately, the 20 red-armored guards who were lying in ambush all over the palace immediately surrounded the spacious living room. Every guard was wearing armor and wielding a sword. They stared murderously at Ji Tianxing and Peng Fei, ready to attack at any time. Fourth elder Tao Yuxing also sneered, "Long Tian, since you already know our objective, then you should also understand that we are determined to win. Don't try to resist in vain. Obediently hand over that divine pagoda and wait for us to deal with you. You can still die a little faster." Indeed, the dagger was revealed when the map was unrolled. The atmosphere in the hall instantly became hostile and filled with murderous intent. Peng Fei gnashed his teeth in hatred. His two fists were clenched until creaking sounds could be heard. He also took out two golden blades that were as thin as cicadas' wings. He stared at everyone with full vigilance, ready to counterattack at any time. But Ji Tianxing was calm and composed. He did not panic or worry in the slightest. He looked at the two elders and opened his mouth to ask, "Other than snatching this king's divine pagoda, how do you plan to deal with this king and Peng Fei?" The two elders frowned and were unwilling to answer. Tao Wangchuan sneered and said, "Kid, is there a need to ask this now?" Tao Zhangji sneered mockingly and said, "You're going to die soon anyway. Why are you still asking this nonsense? Why do you care how we deal with it?" Ji Tianxing was not angry either. Ignoring the two of them, he looked straight at the two elders and said, "Since you guys are full of confidence and determined to get it, then what else do you not dare to say? This king just wants to know, as one of the demon race's 7 great aristocratic families, how dare the Tao Tai clan conspire to kill the dragon race bloodline?" Third elder Tao Rongxin frowned fiercely and sneered disdainfully, "Kid, looks like you're very satisfied with your dragon race identity. Because of this, you're very confident and arrogant? Do you think that by relying on your dragon race identity, you'll receive respect and flattery wherever you go in the dragon realm? It's indeed like this among those lowly races. They'll all curry favor with you. But it won't work in our Tao Tai clan." Fourth elder Tao Yuxing stood up and continued, There's a very ancient saying. You might not have heard it before. In the eyes of our Tao Tai clan, there's no distinction between high and low in all things in the world. To us, all things are our food. Even the publicly acknowledged most noble dragons, phoenixes, and cheelants are also similarly food. The only difference is that some foods can bring us enormous benefits. Relying on his divine technique, he was able to block the joint attack of the 4 divine kings. Moreover, he was not at a disadvantage at all. While he was not injured, he had also injured Tao Changji and Tao Wangchuan. But Peng Fei's situation was too miserable. He was no match for the 20 guards and was severely injured in one move. He had not recovered from his injuries yet, and now he was severely injured. His divine body was almost destroyed. With such terrible injuries, he would need at least 10 years of seclusion to recover. Most importantly, this was only the beginning of the war. The 20 Sir Gods didn't stop as they pounced over with murderous intent. They waved their swords and sabers, ignoring the falling pieces of bricks and stones. They all used their most powerful killing moves, wanting to kill Peng Fei in one move. Peng Fei could not resist at all, nor could he counterattack. He could only watch as the divine technique light expanded in front of him and was about to drown him. In at most one breath's time he would be smashed into smithereens and vanish. At this moment his heart was filled with endless sorrow and regret. I'm still too young. In the past I stayed in the 9 mystical grotto heaven and didn't know the dangers of the outside world. Even when I left the 9 mystical grotto heaven and wandered alone outside, Master and Uncle Master took care of me in secret. Now that I have followed Senior Longtian and wandered outside, I know how sinister people can be. Peng Fei really regretted it. If he could do it all over again and make a choice again, he would definitely not leave the 9 mystical grotto heaven. He would definitely follow the teachings of the elders in his clan and cultivate to the divine king realm before venturing outside. But unfortunately, it was useless no matter how much he regretted it. Death was about to befall him. Peng Fei closed his eyes and waited for death. However, right at this critical moment something unexpected happened. His eyes blurred and divine light flashed in front of him. Suddenly 3 figures appeared out of thin air. Swoosh, swoosh. The one in the lead was a skinny, white-haired man from the Phoenix race. As for the other 2 people, one was a divine race man in green robes, and the other was a 100-meter-tall giant with a body like stone. These 3 people had different appearances, but their strength was very formidable. They emitted the aura of powerhouses exclusive to divine kings. Peng Fei was stunned. He stared at the 3 divine kings, dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. These 3 divine king powerhouses were precisely Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu and Yank. They were originally cultivating in seclusion in the divine pagoda and only appeared to save Peng Fei when they obeyed Ji Tianqing's summons and orders. Seeing the attacks of the 20 guards descending from the sky, Bai Feng waved her palms expressionlessly, sending out palm shadows that filled the sky. Only to hear muffled bangs explode one after another. The divine technique shadows that filled the sky collapsed on the spot, splashing out countless divine light shards. Bai Feng only used one move and disintegrated the encirclement of the 20 guards. Chao Qingyu and Yank seized the opportunity to counterattack, stabbing out several hundred streaks of resplendent sword light and firing out 6 fist shadows that were as large as mountains. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Rumble. A horrifying scene appeared. Places where the several hundred streaks of sword light passed, the 20 guards were engulfed by the sword light, turning into smithereens on the spot, exploding into countless pieces of flesh and blood. And those 6 massive fist shadows descended right after, blasting all the survivors into dregs. Amidst an earth-shaking loud bang, the 20 guards were insta-killed on the spot, not even leaving behind a corpse. Not only were their divine bodies destroyed, even their divine personas were blasted into smithereens too. Peng Fei witnessed all of this with his own eyes and was immediately shocked to the extreme. Both eyes opened wide, his eyes filled with astonishment and reverence. Although he did not know these 3 divine king powerhouses in front of him. But with his intelligence and wisdom, it was not hard to guess that these 3 divine kings were definitely related to Senior Longtian. On the other side, Tao Wangchuan, Tao Zhangji, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing, the 4 people had already besieged Ji Tianqing for 3 moves. Unfortunately, they were unable to breach Ji Tianqing's defenses from start to end, and did not harm Ji Tianqing at all. Instead, it was Ji Tianqing who executed his divine ability ultimate skill, taking advantage of the situation to insta-kill Tao Wangchuan. Tao Wangchuan's head was separated from his body, his divine persona also disintegrated, turning into over a dozen fragments, scattering in the ruins. The 3 lucky survivors were very alarmed and terrified. Witnessing Bai Feng and the rest insta-killing the 20 guards with their own eyes, they immediately turned pale with fright, letting out a series of cries of shock. Who are these three fellows? Damn it. They actually killed all 20 guards? Definitely Long Tian's helpers. Too despicable, this guy actually brought along Divine King Realm guards with him. Tao Rongxin trio was not stupid and could immediately conclude that Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank were definitely Ji Tianxing's guards. Although they were also very shocked and felt that it was inconceivable. How could a mere middle-level Divine King Long Tian have 2 middle-level Divine Kings and 1 high-level Divine King to be his guards? But now was clearly not the time to consider this question. Chapter 36:13. The battle paused. The entire Forgotten River Palace was destroyed, becoming a stretch of ruins. The 20 guards were all reduced to ashes. Only Tao Zhangji, Tao Rongxin, Tao Yuxing as well as Ji Tianxing and the rest were left on the ruins. A few breaths ago it was Tao Rongxin and the rest who surrounded Ji Tianxing and Ping Fei. But now the situation was completely flipped. Tao Rongxin 3 people were instead surrounded by Ji Tianxing, Bai Feng and the rest. The atmosphere was rather awkward. While Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were filled with shock and horror, their hearts were also filled with rage. They felt that Ji Tianxing was too treacherous, too despicable. They had all sorts of thoughts in their hearts, but there was no fear or regret. After all, this was the star-devouring grotto heaven, the Tao Tai clan's lair. Even if Ji Tianxing brought 3 Divine King guards with him and caught them off guard, it was also not a big deal. The outcome would still not change at all. Of course, the process would definitely be a little complicated. At the very least, they had to retreat strategically and temporarily avoid the spearhead. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing exchanged a glance and communicated secretly via voice transmission. This brat's strength is indeed very strong. Furthermore, he even brought 3 Divine King Realm guards. With just the 2 of us, we definitely can't take them down. No worries. Let's leave this place first, then discuss further. Anyway, it's our territory. Are we still scared of them running away? The 2 hit it off and turned around to flee without hesitation, sprinting toward the Forgotten River Palace's front courtyard. Behind that stretch of ruins was originally the Forgotten River Palace's entrance. At the same time, it was also the entrance to the Sealing Divine Formation. Swoosh, swoosh. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing instantly teleported 10,000 feet, appearing at the Sealing Divine Formation's entrance, and were about to cast their arts to open the Divine Formation. However, Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng had long detected it and immediately followed, casting arts to attack. Heavenly Dragon World / Ji Tianxing roared furiously, brandishing the Burial of Heaven sword with all his might, slashing fiercely at Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. Bai Feng also brandished a pair of blazing white divine sabers, slashing out divine flame saber lights that covered the sky, enveloping the 2 elders' figures. Helpless, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing could only stop casting their spells and block Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng's attacks with all their strength. Opening the Sealing Divine Array was very simple, but it still took a breath's time. They did not dare to ignore Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng's attacks, as that would be tantamount to suicide. Ping ping ping. When the divine spells from both sides collided, there was a deafening explosion that caused the ground to tremble. The huge Sealing Divine Formation was also completely activated. It lit up with colorful divine light and shook violently. Even though the shockwaves from their battle hadn't been able to break the Sealing Divine Array, it was still quite powerful. However, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were sent flying. They spat out blood as they fell into the ruins. The 2 of them were horrified. Their faces were full of fear as they activated the array again. Their top priority right now was to escape from the Divine Formation and shake off Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng. Presumably, Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng would not dare to start a massacre in the star-devouring paradise. If that was the case, the 2 of them would be able to survive. However, just as the 2 of them were about to activate the array, Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng pounced on them again. The Sword of Burial of Heaven and the 2 blazing white divine sabers slashed out divine spell shadows that covered the sky and shrouded Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. The 2 of them were interrupted again. They could only take out their divine weapons to protect themselves and block the attacks with all their might. On the other side, Tao Changji's outcome was very tragic. He did not know that Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing had discussed in secret and decided to activate the Sealing Divine Array to escape. When the two elders turned around to escape, he was still rooted to the ground. Then Ji Tianxing and Bai Feng went to intercept the two elders. He was surrounded by Chao Qingyu and Yank. He was only a low-level Supreme God King, while Chao Qingyu and Yank were mid-level Supreme God Kings. Putting aside the difference in their cultivation levels, just Chao Qingyu and Yank's battle experience was enough to crush Tao Changji. Boom, boom, boom. After the first round of attacks, Tao Changji was blasted away and crashed into the ruins. He was severely injured on the spot. His robe and armor were shattered. Blood gushed out from all over his body and his hair was disheveled. He crawled out from the ruins and roared furiously, "You two bastards! This is the star-devouring grotto heaven. How dare you kill me? Are you tired of living?" Tao Changji's words were very intimidating. In the star-devouring grotto heaven, who would dare to kill a supreme god king or deacon of the Tao Tai clan? Anyone would have to consider the consequences and whether or not they could accept the Tao Tai clan's anger. Unfortunately, Chao Qingyu and Yank were not among them. The two of them had followed Ji Tianxing. What kind of storms and waves had they not seen? What kind of dangers had they not experienced? It was just a grotto heaven. They did not care about it at all. Therefore, they ignored Tao Changji's words and attacked even more ferociously. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Tao Changji was already severely injured and his strength had decreased greatly. Chapter 36:14. The sudden roar was deep and majestic. Not only did Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing stop running, even Ji Tianxing, Bai Feng and the rest stopped chasing. Even those dozens of Tao Tai clansmen who drew their weapons and prepared to intercept Ji Tianxing and the rest stopped one after another. The scene immediately quietened down. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A cold light flashed past. Over 40 Tao Tai clansmen put away their weapons one after another and assumed a posture like they were watching a show. Ji Tianxing glanced at the palace not far away and quietly opened the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda. He put Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu and Yank inside. There was only him left in the scene. In front of him were dozens of Tao Tai clansmen. Behind him were dilapidated ruins. Right at this time, inside the most sacred and solemn palace, a dazzling blood light lit up. Swoosh. The blood light flashed. A man in purple armor who was 3 feet tall and sturdy like a small mountain appeared in front of everyone. This was a Tao Tai clansman who looked very clumsy and bloated. His entire body was covered with dark red scales. His curly hair was also scarlet like fire. He wore heavy purple armor and stood in the scene like a mountain, giving people an extremely intense oppressive feeling. Many Tao Tai clansmen did not dare to look at him. They lowered their heads one after another and bowed respectfully. "Greetings to Lord Patriarch." Without a doubt, this Tao Tai clansman who was like a small mountain was precisely the Tao Tai clan's patriarch, Tao Yongxing. The scene was very quiet. Tao Yongxing sized up Ji Tianxing expressionlessly. Looking at the ruins behind him, he turned his head to look at the heavily injured Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. Ji Tianxing stood on the spot with an indifferent expression and was also sizing up Tao Yongxing. He only knew this Tao Tai clan's patriarch's name but did not understand his nature. Therefore he was also unable to predict what would happen next. At the same time, in the 2 palaces nearby, several more blood lights lit up. There were 6 to 7 Divine King Realm Tao Tai clan powerhouses who came to the scene one after another. Among these people, apart from the Tao Tai clan's high priest, there were a few elders. They were not noisy nor did they shout. After arriving, they quietly stood behind Tao Yongxing, silently watching Ji Tianxing. Seeing that Ji Tianxing was from the Dragon clan and the ruins behind him, as well as Tao Rongxian and Tao Rongxian who were in a sorry state, the elders were shocked. After a moment of silence, Tao Yongxing took the lead and asked in a low voice, "Who can tell me what's going on?" He had been cultivating in seclusion all this while, so he didn't know what had happened. The commotion caused by the battle just now was too great, and it disturbed his cultivation. Therefore he suppressed his anger and his face was very gloomy. Tao Rongxin the villain complained first. He could not wait to say, reporting to Patriarch, that Dragon Clan youth is called Long Tian. We kindly invited him to the star-devouring paradise as a guest. Who would have thought that he would actually covet our clan's resources and treasures, and start a massacre in the Forgotten River Palace? Tao Yuxing also shouted with grief and indignation. Clan leader Wang Chuan and Chang Ji, the two deacons, have already lost their lives to him. There were also 20 guards who were killed off by him and his companions. Luckily you came in time. Otherwise we'd have lost our lives under his sword too. The two people's words were extremely provocative. When the surrounding several dozen Tao Tai clan members heard it, they were indeed filled with righteous indignation and shared a common hatred for the enemy, glaring at Ji Tianqing with furious eyes. But this sort of nonsense, only those Tao Tai clan members would believe it. The high priest and the few elders did not have any reaction, their expressions indifferent. Tao Yongxing declined to comment. Looking towards Ji Tianqing, he asked, "Young man, what do you have to say?" Hearing his words, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing's faces immediately changed. The patriarch clearly did not believe the two of them, giving Ji Tianqing a chance to defend himself. Ji Tianqing also raised his brows. The corners of his mouth curled into a meaningful smile. Previously, this king even thought that the Tao Tai clan were all some greedy, cunning and malicious people. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji invited this king with all sorts of enthusiasm and great hospitality. But when this king came to the star-devouring grotto heaven, they secretly colluded with two elders, wanting to harm this king and the guards' lives. This made this king very disappointed and hateful towards the Tao Tai clan. Looking at it now, it was this king who wronged you all. I didn't expect that clan leader Tao Tai is deeply principled and can distinguish right from wrong. What Ji Tianqing was most worried about previously was that clan leader Tao Tai and the few elders would be the same as Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing, completely disregarding benevolence, righteousness and morals, shedding all pretense of cordiality and coming to kill the moment they met. That way, if he wanted to escape from the star-devouring grotto heaven, he would still have to expend some means. It would be very difficult. But things were not as bad as he expected. Clan leader Tao Tai High Priest and the few elders could still maintain reason and restraint for the time being. This let the matter have leeway to turn things around. Of course, Ji Tianqing was just saying so verbally. Actually, in his heart he would not trust anyone in the Tao Tai clan anymore at all. Tao Yongxing immediately cracked a smile and said with a slight nod, "Young man, you're also a person who understands things. This seat admires you very much." That's right, our Tao Tai clan has always been warm and hospitable, kind and generous. This seat has been in charge of the Tao Tai clan for these 10,000 years. Other races that came to the star-devouring grotto heaven as guests, if there weren't 10,000, there were also 8,000. But when have you heard before that our Tao Tai clan would murder the lives of our guests? This is simply nonsense. Even if there are some rumors in the outside world, those are also groundless rumors, purely groundless talk. Finished talking, Tao Yongxing pointed at Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing again, saying with a face full of indignation, "This seat really didn't expect that normally. This seat disciplined them so strictly and still couldn't restrain these clansmen well. Now two scum actually appeared in the clan doing this kind of infuriating thing. Long Tian, you rest assured. This seat will definitely investigate the truth of the matter clearly and punish them severely to warn the clansmen. In addition, this matter was just an accident. It was the muddle-headedness of those two scum. It absolutely can't represent the entire Tao Tai clan." Tao Yongxing reprimanded Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing as scum in front of everyone, bringing shame to the Tao Tai clan. The two elders were scolded until they were black and blue all over without any face left. They were both overwhelmed with shame and indescribable grief and indignation. Yet they were unable to refute and could only lower their heads, forcefully enduring the humiliation, and put on an attitude of admitting their mistake. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing revealed a slight smile on the surface, expressing approval of Tao Yongxing's way of handling things and expressing satisfaction with his attitude. But in reality, the more Tao Yongxing explained to him and apologized, the colder the light in the depths of his eyes became. Because he already discerned that Tao Yongxing was stalling for time here. Most likely Tao Yongxing also had killing intent aroused. It was just that he was not clear about the situation before his eyes yet. That was why he temporarily endured and put on a show. Ji Tianqing was well aware in his heart. After Tao Yongxing apologized, he suggested probingly, "Patriarch Tao is selfless, upright and dignified, truly making this prince admire. Since Patriarch Tao wants to investigate the truth and clean house, then this prince won't disturb anymore and will take my leave here." Chapter 36:15. Ji Tianxing mentioned that he wanted to leave the star-devouring grotto heaven. This was a test to verify his guess and the answer he already had in his heart. As expected. Without waiting for him to finish, Tao Yongxing smiled and waved his hand to interrupt him. Young Master Longtian, this is you being immature. In this matter you are the victim. It was our Tao Tai clan that neglected you and made you suffer. Now I want to interrogate them severely to find out the truth. How can you leave? I have a lot of questions to ask you, and after the investigation is done, I will sentence them to death and compensate you at the same time. Before this matter is settled, you must not leave the star-devouring grotto heaven. Otherwise, if this matter spreads, the other clans will think that we are evil people who bully others. Tao Yongxing said a lot of righteous words to persuade Ji Tianxing. At the same time, he firmly expressed that he would not let Ji Tianxing leave. He did not even give Ji Tianxing a chance to refute. He ordered rudely and arbitrarily, "Young Master Longtian, Wangchuan Palace has been destroyed. It is temporarily unsuitable for living. How about this, you stay in Great Elder's Wuxian Palace first. A few elders will accompany you and protect your safety. In the next few days I want to find out the truth and will have to look for you. After I find out the truth I will give you a satisfactory answer. After this matter is settled, you can leave the star-devouring grotto heaven." After that, Tao Yongxing waved his hand and gave the order. The white-haired Great Elder brought 4 upper Divine King Realm elders to Ji Tianxing and greeted him. Tao Yongxing and the Great Priest brought Tao Rongxing and Tao Yuxing to the clan leaders' hall. Looking at the 2 elders' dejected and drooping heads, it seemed like they were going to be interrogated. As for the other elders, their attitudes towards Ji Tianxing were much more complicated. On the surface they were respectful and polite to Ji Tianxing. However, their attitude was tough and their eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. Sometimes, the way he looked at Ji Tianxing was very strange, as if he was looking at a dead man. Perhaps in their hearts, Ji Tianxing was already dead. It was only a matter of time. Before the patriarch decided to murder Ji Tianxing, their mission was to monitor and imprison Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was well aware of all of this and he had already expected it. He was not angry nor did he panic. He calmly followed the great clan elder and the others to stay in Wuxian Palace. On the surface, the great elder was still polite to him. He arranged 2 guards, 2 maids and an exclusive room and secret room for him. Ji Tianxing rejected the guards and maids and entered the secret chamber alone to cultivate in seclusion. Seeing that he was so cooperative, the first elder heaved a sigh of relief and was happy to be free. As long as Ji Tianxing stayed in Wuxian Palace and did not go out or leave, he did not care what Ji Tianxing was doing. In the palace where the patriarch Tao Yongxing lived, the gloomy underground secret chamber was protected by 2 layers of king-grade divine formations, which could block all sound, god power and soul consciousness. Tao Yongxing sat at the head of the table, holding a bunch of colorful precious gems and stuffing them into his mouth like melon seeds. He chewed them loudly. The high priest stood aside, looking at Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing with a dark face. The 2 elders stood side by side in the middle of the secret chamber, lowering their heads as if they were waiting to be scolded. The atmosphere was heavy but not oppressive or fearful. That was because Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing knew that the patriarch would only scold them and not do anything else. As expected, Tao Yongxing chewed more than 20 gems before he calmed down. He asked in a low voice, "You two, do you know you were wrong?" Seeing his anger dissipate, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing heaved a sigh of relief and hurried to bow and apologize. "Patriarch, please calm down. We know we were wrong. We know we were wrong. Patriarch, please punish us." Tao Yongxing looked at them expressionlessly and asked again, "Then do you know where you were wrong?" "Well." Tao Rongxin was stunned, not knowing how to answer. Tao Yuxing thought for a while and hurried to answer, "Patriarch, we were wrong because we didn't investigate the situation clearly. We didn't know the details of that kid before we acted rashly. If we had investigated clearly and acted with full confidence, we could have killed him in one blow. We wouldn't have made such a mess and humiliated our clan." Tao Yongxing nodded slightly and scolded in a dignified tone, "Yes. You were wrong because you were too stupid, too confident and arrogant. You think you can do whatever you want here in the star-devouring grotto heaven and in our territory? I've taught you many times that nothing is absolute. You can't underestimate your enemy at any time. This is a lesson. Not only did you fail to kill him, but you also lost Wang Chuan, Changji and 20 guards. You also made a mess and lost your face. That kid is from the Dragon Clan, so he must have a powerful background. If he sends a message to the Dragon Clan or spreads out what you did, how do you think the various clans in the Dragon Realm will talk about our Tao Tai clan? Speaking up to hear, Tao Yongxing paused and glared at the two elders. Tao Rong Xian and Tao Yuxing hurriedly admitted their mistakes and apologized, expressing that they would change next time. The high priest also exhorted earnestly, Patriarch taught you countless times that you must put the overall situation first. You coveted that Dragon Clan youth's bloodline. This is a small matter and also a small profit. But you screwed up the matter. Chapter 36:16. Tao Yongxing said to Ji Tianxing before, after ascertaining the truth of the matter, he would punish Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing severely. However, the punishment he gave the two elders was so light. Apart from a warning and intimidating meaning, it did not have any substantial harm to the two elders. Either way, their salaries as elders were not high. 1,000 years of accumulation was also just several hundred million divine stones. Divine king powerhouses like them, which one did not possess several hundred billion in wealth. Their source of wealth did not rely on the Tao Tai clan's salary. Therefore Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were filled with joy, hurriedly bowing and giving thanks. Patriarch's decision were wholeheartedly convinced. Many thanks for Patriarch's leniency beyond the law. We'll definitely remember your teachings and absolutely won't make the same mistake again. After the two elders bowed and gave thanks, Tao Yongxing waved his hand and continued, the punishment is done. Now you guys tell this seat just what is that Long Tian's background. Also, you guys said before that he seemed to have brought along guards? What's going on here? Tao Rongxin hurriedly answered, reporting to Patriarch that Long Tian was swindled back by Forget Chuan and Changji when they ran into each other at the Dark Moon Mountain range. At that time Long Tian even had a guard beside him. That was a high-ranked divine lord realm golden-winged great rock. Although Long Tian and that golden rock were both seriously injured, Forget Chuan detected that Long Tian's strength was very powerful and came to find us in private, requesting us to take action and help. And when we entered the Forgotten River Palace and made a move against Long Tian, only then did we discover that his strength was indeed very powerful, comparable to high-ranked divine kings. Furthermore, he even brought along 3 divine king realm guards with him. Those 3 guards seemed to all be of the divine race. One was a high-ranked divine king with the Phoenix race bloodline, while the other 2 were middle-ranked divine kings. Hearing Tao Rongxin's explanation, Tao Yongxing immediately furrowed his brows, his eyes twinkling with a scorching light. No wonder the Forgotten River Palace was destroyed. Forget Chuan, Changji and 20 guards were killed. The 2 of you were also seriously injured. I didn't expect that he looked like he was alone, but in reality he brought along 4 guards with him. Furthermore, there were actually Golden Rock and Phoenix race bloodlines among those 4 guards. At this point Tao Yongxing's lips curled into a bloodthirsty sneer, and he licked his lips greedily. He has a top-notch dragon bloodline to begin with, and the guards around him have the bloodlines of the Golden Rock and the Phoenix. Even though Wang Chuan and Changji were dead, it had to be said that these 2 fellows' luck was really unbelievably good. The 2 of them are the lucky stars of our clan. The great priest hurriedly nodded in agreement, then sneered and said, no matter the bloodline of the dragon kind, the phoenix kind or the Gold Rock clan, they are all stronger than the bloodline of our Tao Tai clan. Coincidentally, the patriarch had been cultivating in seclusion. However, he was stuck at the 9th Heavenly King realm, unable to reach the peak. These outsiders have come at the right time. The clan leader's great opportunity has finally arrived. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing instantly understood that the patriarch would not let Long Tian and his guards off. The patriarch wanted to devour the 3 noble bloodlines to strengthen his own bloodline and increase his strength. In other words, the 2 of them had gone through all this trouble for nothing, but they didn't even get a single strand of hair. Not only was he heavily injured, he was also fined 1,000 years of salary by the patriarch. He had really gone for wool and come home shorn. The 2 of them were somewhat depressed when they thought about it. However, the patriarch was already especially kind to the 2 of them. The 2 of them could not ask for anything extravagant, let alone dare to show dissatisfaction. After a moment of silence, Tao Yuxing opened his mouth to ask, Patriarch, now that the situation is clear, when will you take action? No hurry. Tao Yuxing waved his hand, revealing a smile full of confidence and said, A cooked duck can't fly away. Furthermore, you guys have already failed once. This matter will definitely spread throughout the star-devouring grotto heaven and be known by the clansmen. When I take action again, I must plan carefully and carefully. I must not fail. The great priest nodded slightly, expressing his agreement. That's right. When the patriarch takes action, you can only succeed. There must not be any slip-ups. Otherwise, it will damage the patriarch's prestige. In addition, this matter cannot be resolved here. It will cause the clansmen to criticize. I suggest to put it at Starry Cliff. Starry Cliff was a cliff that was as high as 100,000 feet, close to the spatial barrier. It was directly north of the Taotai clan's camp, 90,000 miles away. In other words, that was the northern edge of the star-devouring grotto heaven, a place where people rarely went. But it was close to the spatial barrier. One could admire the vast starry sky without any obstructions, bathing in the brilliance of billions of stars. Therefore, Starry Cliff's star-divine power was incomparably abundant. It became a treasure land and scenic spot of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Normally, Starry Cliff was sealed by a divine array. Only the patriarch, elders, and deacons could enter. Hearing the great priest's suggestion, Tao Xian and Tao Yuxing's eyes lit up, hurriedly nodding in agreement. That's right. Putting it at Starry Cliff is the safest. No matter what happens there, the clansmen will not know. Great priest is still thoughtful. Even if there is a fight at that time and a huge commotion is caused, it will also not spread here. Tao Yuxing frowned and weighed for a moment before nodding in agreement to this suggestion. All right, then let's do as the great priest says. After that, he started to give orders, arranging a series of tasks for everyone. Pass the order to the great elder. Let him and the other 4 elders keep a close eye on Long Tian. Absolutely do not allow him to take half a step out of Wuxian Palace. Rongx and Yuxing, you guys immediately enter the ancestor altar and treat your injuries as soon as possible. Great priest, you bring 20 elite experts and follow this seat to Starry Cliff. This seat has to go to Starry Cliff to set things up. Only by preparing in advance can I guarantee that nothing goes wrong. The great priest and the 2 elders both acknowledged the order, bowed and took their leave, going to carry out the mission. After 7 minutes, the great priest quietly gathered 20 elite experts and followed Tao Yuxing to rush to Starry Cliff, setting up traps in advance. Inside the Taotai clan's campsite, undercurrents were already surging. In these 2 days, several thousand Taotai clan members were all discussing one matter. There was a dragon race youth in the campsite who fought a great battle with 2 elders, destroying the Forgotten River Palace and killing 20 guards. In the end, that dragon race youth was safe and sound. The patriarch severely punished the 2 elders. All because the 2 elders harbored evil intentions, conspiring to kill that dragon race youth, wanting to seize his dragon race bloodline. Several thousand Taotai clan members were all sighing emotionally, becoming more and more reverent and admiring of the patriarch. The patriarch normally teaches us that if our strength is not powerful enough, we have to keep a low profile and endure, and absolutely must not provoke powerful enemies. Those 2 elders are also muddle-headed, to actually dare provoke the dragon race's divine king. Isn't this setting up a powerful enemy for our clan? Yeah. Fortunately, the patriarch came forward in time and stabilized that dragon race youth. That was how this matter did not blow up. If the news were to spread out or spread to the dragon race, not only would our clan's reputation be damaged, we would even suffer the dragon race's revenge. The patriarch really went to great lengths for our peace and tranquility. I heard that the patriarch severely reprimanded and punished the 2 elders in order to settle this matter, all in order to give that dragon race's divine king a satisfactory explanation. Bookhouse Reading Website. That you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.